Are you ready?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling 855-777-9660. That's 855-777-9660. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Wednesday edition of the Steve Malzberg Show. We have so much to get to today. You would think the day before the 4th of July we would go light, we would go friendly, we would go happy-go-lucky. Not to be the case. As we speak, the military is addressing the people of Egypt. We have reports out of Egypt that Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi is no longer part of the decision-making circle. The state-run newspaper there is saying that Morsi is no longer president of Egypt. The military is laying out what they call a roadmap to go forward. They say Morsi did not achieve the goals of the people. This is happening as I speak. The United States has said it's concerned, but had said it was not taking sides. The Morsi spokesperson has said now for a couple of hours that a military coup was underway. We're going to get to that with John Bolton. I just want to tell you we're also going to get you to the latest in the Zimmerman trial. There's an indication that the prosecution will rest its case this afternoon, and over defense objections, the defense will then begin its case on Friday. They wanted to wait until Monday, but the judge has insisted that they come back. Everyone comes back in session on Friday, the day after the 4th of July, for the defense to start its case. Now, just about an hour ago, before this latest, now we're learning the Army has suspended Egypt's constitution. So it appears that Morsi is out. But prior to this announcement, which has just taken place, we spoke to our friend, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, and I asked him for his take on what was going on just as short as an hour ago.
Honestly, we've had a lot of reports about what's happened in Cairo that have been contradicted a few hours later. So I think from a distance it's going to be difficult to see what's happening. But I think the situation really is on a knife's edge here. The Morsi Mohammed Brotherhood, Muslim Brotherhood side is basically dug in and said they're not going to give up. The opposition, which is concerned that the Brotherhood may never agree to another election again ever, doesn't want to give up. The military, really, in my view, is not happy about having to intervene, but they can see unless something happens, instability is just going to continue. So you have a lot of confusion, divisions among the different political factions, but tensions and emotions very high. This could get very ugly quickly, unfortunately.
Whose side are we on? I mean, you know, you and I have talked many times about Barack Obama and the Muslim Brotherhood, and of course, I don't believe Mubarak could have been ousted without our support, and I don't think Morsi could have ever gotten elected without the United States support to one extent or another. But the aid that we give to Egypt, if I'm not mistaken, goes almost directly to the military. We, in effect, have, if we don't control their military, certainly, we have huge, you would think, influence because we give them the $1 billion a year. We've just sold them and given them all kinds of sophisticated military equipment. So do we have maybe undue influence on the military? And if we do or don't, whose side are we on anyway?
Well, we should have considerable influence on the military for all the assistance we've given over the past 30-plus years. But even in just his 12 months in power, Mohamed Morsi has tried to stack the military with officers friendly to the Muslim Brotherhood. And I think we'll soon see whether he's had much success or not. Doesn't appear that he has so far. But I think trying to analyze what U.S. policy should be has to start with what we think American interests are. And trying to get into the complexities of Egyptian politics is not very productive from my point of view. You know, the crowds that are demonstrating against Morsi think that Obama is on Morsi's side. That's based on remarks our ambassador in Egypt has made. And so it's a fine irony that having helped push Mubarak out of office, now we're accused of defending the next authoritarian leader. But I think America's interests are Number one, making sure that Egypt, under whatever government, continues to uphold the Camp David peace accords with Israel. That's a foundation stone of our policy in the Middle East. And number two, that, again, whatever government is in control keeps the Suez Canal open. Now, my guess in the middle of this confused situation is that the military is most likely to care about stability and order. That doesn't mean they're Jeffersonian Democrats, far from it. But we're not in Scarsdale, New York now. You know, we're in the middle of a very complex and potentially lethal situation in cities all across Egypt. So I think we ought to be trying to use that leverage we have with the military, try and get some order restored, and then see where we go from there.
Mr. Ambassador, is this just another example of Barack Obama's foreign policy inadequacies?
I think it is. I think it's, unfortunately, the last 2 years in dealing with the Arab Spring in general and Egypt in particular has demonstrated the president just, I'd like to talk about the Obama foreign policy. I don't think he has one. I think it's completely incoherent. I don't think he pays enough attention. I think he thinks he can do foreign policy and national security on the spur of the moment. And I think the series of ad hoc decisions he's made with respect to Egypt show that not only does that not work, but that it doesn't get through to him that he's got a problem. You know, let's come back to Mubarak last 2 years ago. Before coming out unequivocally for Mubarak to step down, in about a 30-day period, the administration had 4 different positions. So they confused everybody and didn't get the support of the opponents to Mubarak that they wanted because nobody could figure out what the position was. I think we're in a very similar place right now, and ultimately that's going to redound to our detriment.
Now, one final thing on Egypt. Morsi's advisor has been quoted around the globe today as saying that a military coup is underway. What would that look like? And what would happen if there were, in fact, a military takeover that would knock somehow Morsi out of power?
Well, I think what people speculate, and again, there are a lot of reports that change hour by hour, but what people speculate is not that the military, not some general, not the defense minister, General al-Sisi, would directly take control, but they'd put technocrats in control to try and get the economy off out of the basement while they then considered what to do with a new constitution and new elections. And, for example, one of the things that's up in the air now is whether the military has taken control of Cairo's radio and television station. That would obviously be a key step in the military having control, or at least preventing others from taking control of it for their purposes. So I think we're going to see this through the day and evening, a lot of uncertainty about exactly what's happening in the country.
We're talking to Ambassador John Bolton here on the Steve Malzberg Show. We had an incident yesterday where the president of Bolivia had his plane denied airspace by several countries and was forced to land, and then it was searched in Austria, and they were looking for Edward Snowden. Now, how do you interpret this, sir? Was this done at the behest of the United States, and this was after Obama said he wouldn't scramble jets to get some 28-year-old hacker? What went on here?
Well, this is really rich. You know, after the French and others have criticized us for spying on the European Union, another one of the Edward Snowden leaks, then the French turn around and deny permission for the president of Bolivia to fly through their airspace, forcing him to land in Austria. I think because of a tip by somebody, maybe by us, that Snowden was on the plane. Now, it doesn't appear that he was. But I think it shows Snowden is becoming a man without a country, which doesn't bother me at all, given what he's done. And interestingly, I think this whole leak about the European Union shows the anti-American nature of the WikiLeaks people who have surrounded Snowden and maybe were working with him even before the first publication of his information. If you ask most Americans, what do you think about conducting espionage against the European Union, I think they'd say, fine, what's the problem? What could be wrong with that? It was intended, the leak was intended to outrage the Europeans and press that anti-American button. That's not the mark, looking at Snowden, that's not the mark of some person trying to alert Americans to the threat from their government. That is the mark of an anti-American propaganda campaign.
All right. James Clapper today apologized for what he called an erroneous answer on NSA surveillance, which he gave to the Congress, to Senator Wyden back in March 12th congressional hearing. He was asked if the NSA collects any types of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans, and he said categorically no. And now he said basically he was wrong. He made a mistake. He didn't count the NSA, whatever. How do you interpret that?
Well, I think Clapper's performance here has been an embarrassment from start to finish. The question about what NSA was doing by Senator Wyden was a gotcha question. It never should have been asked in public. The fact that Clapper was told the day before that the question was going to be asked makes his answer in the open testimony even more bizarre. The only answer that he could properly give was, Senator, I can't discuss that in an open session. And that, of course, is part of the gotcha nature of the question. What the administration should have done was gone to Wyden or the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee and said, look, we're not going to play politics on this. If you want to talk about that, we'll do it in a closed session. But Clapper's argument that he gave the least inaccurate answer, that he misunderstood that just, in my mind, makes him look even more foolish than he is already, which is saying something.
Any 4th of July plans for you, sir?
No, I'm going to stick around home. I've been on the road a lot, so I plan to enjoy it with my family and probably go down to Fox News 2 or 3 times over the weekend.
Sounds good. We'll be watching, and thank you for your time as always.
Thank you. That's
Ambassador John Bolton, ladies and gentlemen, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. Yeah, we really have to watch what's going on in Egypt. It is rich, as described by John Bolton, what happened to the Bolivian president and the Bolivian president's plane. And Clapper is a disgrace, and in my view always has been a disgrace and never should have been put into the position that he's in right now. But we're living in the abomination on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Hi, this is Mike Reagan. Folks ask me, what would Ronald Reagan do if he were with us today? I believe the first thing he'd do is stop Obamacare. Already it's in effect, with higher taxes, hidden fees, skyrocketing insurance rates, big Medicare cuts. And some insurance plans are hit with a 40% tax. Protect yourself by getting the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's already a #1 New York Times bestseller. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law, giving you the strategies, tips, and loopholes you need to know. If you're insured on Medicare, a business owner, a medical professional, just about anyone, you need this book. Get the #1 bestseller, the Obamacare Survival Guide, at bookstores everywhere. Or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price by going now to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. Really? Yeah. They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-908-1254, 800-908-1254.
Meet Jim. Like many of us, Jim enjoys a busy life. Between work, family, and friends, his days zip along. And Jim has the energy to tackle almost anything. But lately, Jim's get up and go has literally taken on a new meaning. Jim's always put focus on a full night's sleep, but it seems like these days, he's up and down to go to the bathroom so many times he can barely wake up in the morning. His prostate concerns have him sad, tired, and worried. Activities that were once enjoyable now seem like a chore for Jim. His golf game is at the mercy of his bathroom schedule. Family outings are planned around it too. Jim even has difficulty going to the bathroom. He's tried so many prostate remedies he can't keep them straight, and nothing ever seems to help. Then Jim found out about Prostate Revive, the all-natural dietary supplement specifically formulated for men, targeted towards improving and sustaining normal prostate function. Prostate Revive includes 15 super ingredients never combined before, including saw palmetto extract, beta-cytosterol, pomegranate fruit extract, selenium, and other high-quality nutrients. These targeted and all-natural ingredients promote healthy urinary flow and optimal prostate health. And the best part is, Prostate Revive was developed by a renowned medical doctor. Dr. David Brownstein personally formulated Prostate Revive with one goal in mind: to promote a healthy prostate gland. Thanks to Prostate Revive, Jim's got his life back. He gets a full night's sleep every night, and his friends and his wife can't believe he's the same guy. He has his old energy back, and no one has to wait for him. He doesn't even think about his prostate concerns anymore. Visit MedicSelect.com to take back your nights and improve your quality of life with Prostate Revive.
Where can you find the Steve Malzberg Show? Everywhere. From your smartphone to satellite radio to Newsmax Live TV to Roku, we have you covered. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the news keeps breaking as we go along here this afternoon. Egypt's military has disposed, or should I say deposed, disposed of the presidency of, but deposed the country's first democratically elected president. The first democratically elected president in the history of Egypt is no more. And it didn't take long for it to happen. I think the speed at which this happened is maybe one of the most amazing things Mohamed Morsi refused to meet the demands to share power with opponents, opponents who maybe 1 million strong, lined the streets of Cairo. And right before we went on the air, we heard reports from the state-run newspaper in Egypt that Morsi was no longer making presidential decisions. We heard another report that he was no longer the president. And in fact, the military leader the leader of the military of Egypt took to the podium and announced to the Egyptians and to the world, just as we hit the air, that Morsi was no longer president, that the Constitution of Egypt had been suspended, and that they will put in place a roadmap going forward, a roadmap to democracy. And opposition will be included, including the Copts and other political parties and religious affiliations. And this is just striking. 1 year in office. 1 year in office. And look, let's call it what it is here. Barack Obama facilitated the election of Morsi. Barack Obama facilitated the election of the Muslim Brotherhood into a position of the presidency and strength in Egypt. We heard from, was it Brennan? Was it John Brennan, who's now in a little hot water for saying he forgot about the Patriot Act when he testified before Congress in March, that no Americans are having their phones bugged or their emails read. He forgot about the Patriot Act? But it's the same John Brennan now who I believe said that the Muslim Brotherhood, they're not a violent people. They're not radical. They're peace-loving. Well, they're not loved in Egypt. And Morsi wasn't loved in Egypt. And the first elected president has been ousted in a military coup, is what you really got to say, a military coup in Egypt. And you know, we're sitting back and we're waiting and we're watching here in the United States. When I say we, I mean our government. I have not heard anything. I had heard concern from the State Department earlier in the day saying that the U.S. was not taking sides. This was prior to the announcement that the coup had taken place and that Morsi was no longer president. By the way, we don't know where Morsi is. When I say we, I mean reports indicate I wouldn't know where he is personally myself, no matter where he was. But the reports indicate that we do not know where Morsi is. that he might have been holed up in his headquarters, which has since been surrounded. Barriers and a chain link fence of sorts, a barbed wire fence, I should say, had been erected around the building that Morsi was supposedly in. So there's been no sighting of Morsi. No explanation as to where Morsi physically is at this point, nor what the future holds for Morsi. Will he be deported out of the country? Will he be thrown in jail? Nothing has been addressed insofar as the future or the current status or the future status of now former President Morsi, the ousted president of Egypt. And again, as John Bolton alluded to, when I asked him if this is an indication of another failure in the foreign policy of Barack Obama, he has no foreign policy to speak of. And I got to tell you, this is a huge failure for Barack Obama. This is a huge failure for Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's the most qualified person ever to run for president because she was Secretary of State for 4 years in addition to being a senator and First Lady. Her record as Secretary of State is one of miserable failure, scandal, Benghazi, cover-ups of investigations in the State Department. Let her run. Now, I know the media will never repeat what I say, but let's find a presidential candidate on the Republican side who will say what I'm saying. But Barack Obama stabbed Mubarak in the back, made sure he was going to be, insisted he had to go, knowing full well the Muslim Brotherhood would take over. And this is what Barack Obama and others have wrought. The people of Egypt, you should see the anti-Obama signs being held up prior to this announcement. They hate us in Egypt. We're coming back with more on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Attention, if you've been classified as a high-risk driver due to DUI, DWI, or tickets for aggressive driving and are required to get expensive and hard-to-find SR22 auto insurance, then you must listen to this message because we can help. We're the largest insurance company in the U.S. specializing in SR22 auto insurance and focused on serving the needs of customers classified by the state as high-risk drivers. We help people get back on their feet by providing easy-to-get, low-cost SR22 insurance that anyone can afford. If you need SR22 auto insurance, or if you have it now and are paying too much, you need to call us today for your free quote at 800-836-4606. Our specialists are standing by waiting for your call. We understand people make mistakes, and we're here to help by making SR22 insurance easy to get and affordable for everyone. The call and quote are free. Call us now at 800-836-4606. That's 800-836-4606. Again, 800-836-4606.
Obamacare. President Obama's massive health care law is taking effect this year. With over 15,000 pages of regulations, few even know what it means. Now, the Obamacare Survival Guide by Nick Tate gives you the shocking facts about this law. It's a step-by-step guide on how you can protect yourself. Already the New York Times bestseller, every American needs to get the Obamacare Survival Guide and find out about the new taxes, hidden fees, fines, Medicare changes, business rules, and why doctor shortages are likely. Donald Trump says the Obamacare Survival Guide is a must-read for anyone worried about getting good health care for themselves or their employees. So get the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's at bookstores or get our special offer at Obamacare911.com and you'll save $15. Go now to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com.
This is a referral service. Calls will be routed to an independent referral insurance agency. Do you know the #1 cause of bankruptcy? No, it's not losing your job or running up credit card debt. It's not even divorce. It's medical costs. If you and your family don't have health insurance, just one serious illness or accident could be financially devastating. But now there's good news, really good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide health insurance for all Americans, even uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now anyone can get health insurance even if you have a pre-existing medical condition. I repeat, now anyone can get health insurance coverage. Call now for a free no-obligation quote on affordable health plans available to you. Again, this is a free hotline for anyone, even if you have pre-existing conditions. Protect you and your family from sudden unexpected medical costs. costs. Call the free health insurance hotline right now at 1-800-910-3470. That's 1-800-910-3470. Call 1-800-910-3470.
Are payday loans ruining your life? If you have 2 or more payday loan cash advances, listen closely. You may be eligible for a program that payday loan companies don't want you to know about.
This program will get payday loan companies out of your bank account and put an end to the payday loan nightmare. Call for free information and find out if Payday Loan Support Center is right for you. Payday loan companies usually trap you into paying rates as high as 700%. We understand payday lenders' tactics. Don't let them take advantage of you anymore. All you need is 2 or more payday loans to qualify. We can help even if you're behind in collections or have bad credit.
Internet payday loans qualify for this program as well. So call 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. The call is free and the consultation is free. Don't miss out. Call for your free information on payday loan relief. 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. Again, 800-250-5084.
This is not your typical Screamfest talk show.
No.
This is the next generation of talk radio. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're joined right now as we continue to cover the military coup which has ousted the first democratically elected president of Egypt on a very, very historic day here. Dr. Tawfiq Hamid, a one-time Islamic extremist from Egypt, now the author of Inside Jihad. He joins us. Dr. Tawfiq Hamid, hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? That's the question. Watching, I'm not sure where your location is, but watching from afar, I would presume what's going on in your home country.
I'm in D.C. and I'm watching actually 2 TVs. One, the CNN, and the other one was what's happening in Egypt in Arabic from the mainstream Arab media. And the situation is really historical. And I heard you saying he was the first democratically elected president. That's very true. However, he betrayed the soul and the spirit of democracy. He came with the ballot. But democracy is not only the ballot. He did not really treat people equally. He turned against the pro-democracy groups and put them in prison, those who helped him to come to power, and at the same time released the jihadists and terrorists from prison. And I believe even though Morsi came with the ballot, but he did not really respect the real value of democracy. And the U.S. now need to support the real democracy, not the pseudo-democracy.
Okay, let me ask you from the beginning. So you were in favor of getting rid of Hosni Mubarak. Would that be an accurate statement?
Absolutely. Initially, I was trying to solve it without, or help in solving it without the collapse of Mubarak, because I knew the Islamists are likely to come to power. But when Mubarak collapse became inevitable, I preferred his collapse and giving the power to the military, but not to the Islamists. This was my vision for the process. But giving the power to Islamists had a lot of risk that I didn't want.
So the military, I would assume, has remained independent, obviously, all along, because they've just thrown out Morsi. The United States, which as late as, I guess, right before this became official, said that they're staying out of it, they're not taking sides. But yet the United States, when we give over $1 billion in aid every year to Egypt, and we give all these sophisticated jets and tanks to Egypt, that's all going to the military. So in effect, we are and have been right along, and even through the Morsi term, we've been supporting the military, which again, I ask you, has remained independent from Morsi the whole time, correct?
Yes, the U.S. was a supporter of the military, and I think this was a wise approach, because the military is the only ally for the U.S. in the country. The Islamists may try to show that they are allies, but when you read the literature of the Muslim Brotherhood, when you follow their statements in Arabic, you can clearly see that they have anti-American, anti-Israel, anti-West agenda. So I think the military support here was crucial to maintain the U.S. interests in the area, such as the Suez Canal, also the peace treaty with Israel.
Yeah, well, that's very important, and the military, of course, will in all likelihood maintain the accessibility of the canal and the treaties with Israel, and I think that's a big sigh of relief for everybody. But let me take you to your criticism of the Muslim Brotherhood. This administration, in my opinion, has great admiration, has great respect, has great tolerance for the Muslim Brotherhood, and many have told me on these airwaves, people like Steve Emerson and others, that people who represent groups that are offshoots of the Muslim Brotherhood are in positions of authority within the State Department and other departments in this country. So how, first of all, talk about the Muslim Brotherhood. When John Brennan said well over a year ago that the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt is not a violent group or a troublesome group, what did you say?
I say you just see what Morsi did when he released the jihadists and terrorists from prisons, and he allowed a former terrorist who killed several tourists in Egypt in Al-Aqsa massacre, he allowed him to become the mayor of one of the best tourist areas in the country. So when you support jihadists and terrorists, you release them from prisons, this tells you about your real intentions. And also the pro-Morsi group attacked the innocent demonstrators around the Al-Ittihadiyya palace of Morsi and killed many of them. In fact, many of the admins of Facebook and social media who were against Morsi were killed last year during Morsi presidency by shots in their head, selected killing for them, the admins who create social media against him. So I think the Muslim Brotherhood can just look like a lamb sometimes in the eyes of some people, but in reality, their actions, their deeds are really saying the opposite of that.
All right, we're talking to Dr. Tawfiq Hamid, one-time Islamic extremist from Egypt. He's also the author of Inside Jihad here on the Steve Malzberg Show. What do you believe, sir, first of all, will be the reaction, maybe not right this second, but in the next hour or the next day or the next week, of the very large group of people that took to the streets that support the Muslim Brotherhood, that vowed, and Morsi, that vowed to spill their blood in support of keeping Morsi in power? And what will happen? We've heard nothing about Morsi, where he is, what his future holds. So address those two issues, please.
The first issue, I expect the pro-Morsi supporters, who are in tens of thousands or few thousands compared to tens of millions against him, they will try this support, the pro-Morsi group, to do some violence in the country. However, many of them will be afraid when they see these huge numbers against them. But still, we will see some bloodshed. But this will not last for long, because when you have the population, the majority of the population, with the police, with the intelligence, with the military, with the media working in one direction against the Islamists, they will have severe difficulty to really use violence at a large scale. So they will try. I'm expecting violent acts. But it will not be for long, and they will fail ultimately, because they are facing the people themselves, not just the military or the police. I'm
sorry. And go ahead. The second part on Morsi's future.
Morsi's future, likely he will be taken to legal court, and he will likely have faced the same end like Mubarak and even more, because he was collaborating in killing people. So I think his end is likely to be in prison or something like in this direction.
Now, what happened, sir, here in Egypt? Does that influence like the groups that were protesting in Turkey, also against the prime minister and the Islamization of the country, if you will? Does this encourage them? Does this encourage other peoples in other countries that may not like what's going on with regard to Sharia and the Islamization of their nation?
Absolutely. This will be a great model for many of them to revolt against the Islamists. And in fact, when you see what's happening in Egypt, this is the first revolution in human history against an Islamic political regime, saying no to political Islam. Many Muslims were incapable of saying it. They were so scared of rejecting political Islam and radical Islam. And now this is the first time we have seen millions of demonstrators daring to say no to political Islam, no to Muslim Brotherhood, no to the system that wants to implement the barbaric Sharia rules. So I think there is a change happening in Egypt, which will affect and influence change all over the world against the Islamists.
And where do you see this maybe happening first? Turkey as a possibility, and if so, or if not, what other countries might this light the fire under, if you will?
Tunisia. Tunisia will be the first country, in my view, to follow Egypt on this. As you see, the Libyans actually chose liberal parties to a great extent in their elections. So you can't have it's not the same cake, actually, it's different. And in Syria, it's a very different situation because the jihadists are now against al-Assad, and you can't compare it to the Egyptian situation. But in general, when you follow the social media and the ways of thinking among young Arabs and the young Muslims, I think the collapse of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt will be an evidence that Islam is not the solution anymore. And it will be a clear message for those who are trying to use the religion to implement political agenda that they failed. They failed in Somalia, in Afghanistan, and here in Egypt, the mother country of the Brotherhood, they even failed in it. I think this will be the biggest blow in the history of the Islamic political groups.
All right, Dr. Tawfiq Hamid, we appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much.
My pleasure and honor.
Take care. All right, folks, when we come back, Peter Brooks, Senior Fellow at the Heritage Foundation and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, will join us to give his take on, again, the military coup in Egypt, which has ousted President Morsi after 1 year in office. Will continue right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Attention hip implant patients. Are you in constant pain? Have you received a letter from your doctor about your implant? Have you had or need a revision surgery? Do you have high levels of metal, chromium, or cobalt in your blood? Over 90,000 hip implant devices have been recalled due to defects and failures resulting in revision or replacement surgery. If you have a recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-0920 to see if your implant is affected by the recalls. If you or a loved one has a defective or recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-0920. That's 800-460-0920. Protect your legal rights today. Call 800-460-0920.
This is an advertisement, not valid in all states. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. iLawsuit.com is an advertising group that represents lawyers advertising their services and is a free matching service for consumers. It is not a law firm or lawyer referral service.
According to the FBI Uniform Crime Report, there are over 5,000 robberies every day. Your home could be at risk of being burglarized. Don't put your loved ones and valuables in jeopardy. For just over $1 per day, your home can be protected from break-ins, fire, and more. Get the latest home security technology from Protect Your Home, your ADT authorized dealer. Over 6 million households sleep better at night with ADT monitored home security. What's more, Protect Your Home is offering you their latest equipment, an $850 value, absolutely free for qualified customers. Protect your loved ones and home today. Call now for licenses and to find out more. The call is free, 1-800-949-8201. That's 1-800-949-8201. Again, 1-800-949-8201. $99 installation charge, 36-month monitoring agreement at $36.99 per month. Payment by credit card or electronic bank account charge. For new homeowner customers with satisfactory credit history only. Local permit fees may be required. Certain restrictions apply. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Newsmax Magazine is proud to present a special tribute to our 40th president, Ronald Reagan. It's a very special documentary and commemorative issue of Newsmax Magazine celebrating the centennial of President Reagan's birth. First, here's a video clip from the award-winning documentary, Rendezvous with Destiny.
We're in the midst of a springtime of hope for America.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Impulses of an evil empire.
Tear down this wall.
I believe that together we can keep this rendezvous with destiny.
In the next several minutes, you will learn things about President Ronald Reagan that you've never seen, heard, or read before. Welcome to today's special Newsmax event celebrating the life and legacy of President Reagan. During this historic presentation, we will commemorate President Reagan's storied life. We'll revisit his 2 terms in office and recollect his proudest achievements and greatest challenges. Ronald Reagan's life reads like a fairy tale of success stories. He was an accomplished athlete, an honored veteran, a famous actor, the governor of California, and of course, our nation's 40th president.
He called himself a citizen politician and only entered politics when he warned government was gaining too much power. By then he was age 54 with a successful career behind him. Twice elected President of the United States, Ronald Wilson Reagan was a contradiction to some. Once a Democrat, then a Republican. A champion of smaller government whose own government grew. A fiscal conservative who failed to balance the budget. His critics mistook his affability for weakness, but behind the smile and the charm existed an extraordinary leader with unique skills and bold and revolutionary ideas.
We only had time to share just a few of the top defining moments in Ronald Reagan's presidency, but you'll get to see them all in Rendezvous with Destiny. By the way, the president's close relationship with the Pope is especially fascinating. You'll also learn how dealing with an alcoholic father helped shape Reagan's ability to negotiate. And if you ever wondered what the leader of the free world likes to get for the holidays, well, you'll find that out as well. So let's review today in this free offer. We are sending you a copy of Ronald Reagan, Rendezvous with Destiny, and the collector's limited edition of our issue commemorating the 100th anniversary of President Reagan's birth.
Right now, when you subscribe to Newsmax Magazine, you can own both the DVD and receive the special Reagan 100th Birthday Commemorative Edition. That's $25 in bonus gifts when you subscribe. Go to newsmax.com/Reagan13 to subscribe today. Join the millions who read Newsmax Magazine every month.
The Steve Malzberg Show is just a bit different from the other radio shows. We have TV cameras. Watch the show at Newsmax.com or listen on your favorite radio station. Here's Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're talking about and following the coup, the military coup, which has ousted Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi after 1 year in office. Joining us now is our friend, senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation, of course, Peter Brooks, also former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense. Hey, Peter. Hey, Peter, how are you, sir?
Good.
Hey,
good to be with you.
Good. Well, thank you for the last minute. I appreciate that. And your take on what we have witnessed today.
Well, I guess the bottom line is what's next. The military is putting forward a roadmap here but the big question is Egypt's a very important country to the United States. What's going to be next? I mean, it's clear probably why things evolved as they did, concerns about the increased Islamization of the country under Morsi, his inability in a year to do anything about the economy, his increased authoritarianism and his placing of Muslim Brotherhood types in ascendance. But this is just the beginning. I don't know what it's going to look like in 12 hours from now. The military is a very powerful force in Egypt. But what comes down the road? I mean, this is an important country. It's the Camp David Accords with Israel, the stability in the Middle East, which isn't very stable right now, the ability to pass through the Suez Canal, counterterrorism issues. So many things are at play here. We basically turned back the clock, a year or so, and we just don't know what the future holds.
Well, we know we've just got word that a judge on the Supreme Constitutional Court in Egypt, I think it's Abli or something Mansour, I don't know anything about him, but he's now the interim president as they move forward with their roadmap. But something very interesting also I want to ask you about. CNN is talking about, and they cited Section 7008 of the 2012 Appropriations Act with regard to the aid that Egypt receives, both military and non-military aid. And there's a clause in there, and I don't have it in front of me, and I don't have the verbatim.
You don't have it memorized?
Well, no, yeah, I used to, but I forgot. I forgot it about a week ago. But something to the effect of that. Then Jill Doherty of the State Department was on with CNN, and she was saying that they're not saying anything yet, but they weren't pleased with Morsi. But there's a clause in that Appropriations Act or bill that says any country that has its duly elected president overthrown by a military coup shall not receive a U.S. foreign aid. So do you, I mean, for us to cut off aid to the military at this point, I think would be a huge mistake. But do you think that there's any danger of that happening?
Well, I mean, they're going to have to see. I mean, they're not calling this a military coup. There will be people who will try to wordsmith this so they don't have to, because the military is the most influential group in the country. And despite concerns about the coup, I think the Obama administration is going to be very cautious in how they characterize this. Now, Congress will look into it. They may decide it was a military coup. There may be efforts to cut off military aid because it is law. So there's going to be some things going on here in the United States in terms of our policy towards Egypt as well in the coming days.
How would you categorize what happened today? Do you believe it was a military coup?
It's hard to say. I mean, I'm here in Washington.
Right. But on its face, I mean, obviously,
we're going to have to see how this. There were military tanks in the street. There were armored personnel carriers. There wasn't. The military did not take power, though. You see, that's So I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to parse this too much. I'm interested in hear what the experts, in terms of the legal experts, are going to say about this. The military's not in charge, though, so I don't know if that constitutes a coup or not. But it's something, obviously, that folks are going to be talking about in the next couple of days.
Now, Peter, as recently as, I guess, an hour before this was announced, before the military leadership took to the airwaves in Egypt and announced that Morsi was done, the United States, at least, was quoted by, it was sourced or non-sourced, that they're concerned. We as a government were concerned, but not taking sides. So talk about, first of all, how much do you believe Barack Obama's policies got Morsi elected and led to the end of Mubarak and made it possible for Morsi? And, of course, Morsi had huge support, I think, from Obama, certainly after he was elected, notwithstanding all the things he said and done in the past with regard to Israel and Jews being pigs, etc. And now he's gone. What does the U.S. do going forward?
Well, I think it was best said by a hyperlink on an article I was reading about Egypt before this actually happened, and it said, the link was Obama administration monitoring the situation. And I think that tells you a lot.
You could rubber stamp that for just about every situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure, he made calls to Morsi. I mean, the president just does not want to offend anybody. I mean, that's just the way he is. And he doesn't want confrontation, and he wants this whole thing to go away. And what I think might be interesting is that if we get we had elections, which doesn't necessarily equate to a democracy in Egypt, and that was the problem. They elected a non-Democrat who was increasingly authoritarian. But I don't know. We'll have to see how this turns out. The administration is obviously not doing a great job in the Middle East. Maybe that's why they're pivoting to the Pacific, as they say.
Absolutely. We're talking to Peter Brooks. I got one more for you, Peter, before we let you go. Well, maybe two. Hillary Clinton. I mean, everybody's talking about she's the most qualified person in the history of the planet to be president and they always throw in, of course, 4 years as Secretary of State because she traveled so many miles. She said all the records. But, here's another result of our foreign policy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, exactly. I mean, she may have been the most traveled Secretary of State, but I don't see that we got a lot of bang for our buck, considering all the dollars and fuel that we used to fuel the aircraft that moved her around. Just going, to places doesn't make a difference. And I fail to see, where, our American foreign policy has really been a success. I mean, we're just kind of watching the parade go by, and that's going on here with the Arab Spring or Islamist Spring or, Arab Summer or whatever you want to call it. We're just not playing, and I don't think that they had a much hand in what happened last time either. They threw Mubarak under the bus, and then they got somebody who was almost as autocratic as he was.
Yeah, and one final word. What about the region? We had a guest on, Dr. Tawfiq Hamid, who used to be an Islamic extremist. He's here in this country. He's written a book on jihad. He thinks Tunisia will take from this and will be the next country to revolt strongly.
Well, it's certainly possible. I mean, what happened in Egypt, it was incredible. You think about 20 million people on the streets out of a population. It's like 1 in 4 people in Egypt being on the streets. Tunisia has moved in the same sort of direction in terms of they're trying to play down the Islamicization of the government, but it is Islamist. It's a possibility. Who knows? But I don't see a lot of good news in the Middle East right now. Egypt is critically important, and more stability is not what that region needs.
Yeah. All right. Well, Peter, enjoy your 4th of July.
On that cheery note, enjoy your 4th of July.
Yes, on that cheery note, absolutely. But thank you for coming up. Appreciate it always. All right, Peter Brooks, ladies and gentlemen, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State and Senior Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Again, I mean, we are sitting here, and I have been watching the Monitor all afternoon, and we are witnessing history, something that has never happened before, just as the election of the first democratically elected president of Egypt was a year ago, and here we are, called it a military coup. I've called it a military coup. CNN's headline says coup in Egypt, but again, the military did not take power technically, so you could parse the words and technically decide what it is, but nonetheless, we are witnessing history. When we come back, we'll be joined by Charles Hurt, columnist at the Washington Times, to talk about, the 4th of July and the South and the North here in this country. Kendall Coffey will go spinning the law with us. We'll talk all about the Zimmerman trial. The prosecution indicated it would rest this afternoon when they were finished, so we'll talk about where the case stands. So we have a lot more ahead. Obamacare, one portion of it delayed for a year. We'll talk to Sally Pipes about that, and Malzberg's Media Madness. So a lot ahead in the next 2 hours right here. Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Attention hip implant patients. Are you in constant pain? Have you received a letter from your doctor about your implant? Have you had or need a revision surgery? Do you have high levels of metal, chromium, or cobalt in your blood? Over 90,000 hip implant devices have been recalled due to defects and failures resulting in revision or replacement surgery. If you have a recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-1530 to see if your implant is affected by the recalls. If you or a loved one has a defective or recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-1530. That's 800-460-1530. Protect your legal rights today. Call 800-460-1530.
This is an advertisement, not valid in all states. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. iLawsuit.com is an advertising group that represents lawyers advertising their services and is a free matching service for consumers. It is not a law firm or lawyer referral service.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-625-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So cancel the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. Right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-625-MyTV. 1-855-625-MyTV. Cancel the cable, cut costs, and get more. 1-855-625-MyTV. 1-855-625-MyTV.
Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Now update. I'm John Bachman. We are tracking the tense and developing situation in Egypt. It continues to evolve at this hour. Right now, an advisor to President Mohamed Morsi says there is a military coup underway. This after a deadline for Morsi to give up some power came and went. Also, early Wednesday, army and pro-reform leaders held closed-door talks to try and find a new way forward for the country. These massive protests that we've seen in the streets of Cairo and elsewhere in Egypt have grown increasingly deadly. The army has also reportedly been setting up barriers around the presidential palace, perhaps to place Morsi under some kind of house arrest. But during a televised address Tuesday, Morsi said he and other members of the Muslim Brotherhood would rather die than yield the legitimacy that comes with being chosen as that nation's first democratically elected president. And at this point, it remains unclear what will actually happen to Morsi. Here's what a Morsi spokesman, Muslim Brotherhood spokesman, said earlier.
When we say that we will stand between the tanks and the president, that means we will sacrifice ourselves as a human shield to protect the legitimacy of the will of the Egyptian people.
And remember to check back frequently to Newsmax.com for the latest developments in Egypt. And the White House makes a surprise announcement about Obamacare. Companies with more than 50 employees will now have until 2015 instead of 2014 before they are required to provide health insurance to their employees. The White House also says it will work to reduce the application form from 21 pages down to 3. Meanwhile, individuals will still be required to have health insurance beginning in January of 2014, or they will be subject to tax penalties. Congressional leaders say this proves the health care law is unworkable, and it will re-energize their efforts to repeal the bill. And the saga of NSA leaker Edward Snowden continues, and it took a strange twist yesterday that involved the president of Bolivia, Evo Morales. At one point, Morales' plane, which was leaving Moscow for Bolivia, was diverted to Austria. Apparently, someone thought Snowden was on board. He was not, but the diversion really upset the Bolivian government because there are international conventions against rerouting presidential planes. However, Bolivia, a socialist nation, is one of the few remaining countries that has not completely denied Snowden's quest for political asylum. And more than 3 million people will travel by air this 4th of July weekend, and there are two big stories now involving airport security you need to know about. The government says a record number of flyers are showing up with guns in their carry-on bags, almost 900 so far this year. The TSA is also now experimenting with dogs to screen passengers in addition to screening their luggage. And next up on our Newsmax Now update, cops say it was an inside job, more than $1 million worth of jewelry stolen from Tiffany's. See how investigators track the heist back to a company executive. And a Newsmax exclusive with the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Pete Hoekstra, on what to do about Egypt.
If you are successful at what you do, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a business owner, or you have a great career, you understand the concept of protecting yourself. Well, are you protecting yourself, your family, and your assets with quality term life insurance? Consider these possible rates. A man age 45 non-tobacco user could obtain $1 million of coverage for as little as $75 a month, and this rate is fixed for the next 10 years. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. A man age 50 non-tobacco user may be able to obtain $500,000 of coverage for as little as $115 a month. And this rate is fixed for the next 20 years. We have great rates for smokers too. Call the Term Lifeline now. 800-430-1309, 800-430-1309, 800-430-1309.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at Aftershock911.com. Aftershock911.com.
What is LigNet? LigNet is knowledge. LigNet is power. LigNet is global. Top-level officials, U.S. intelligence officers, national security advisors, foreign operatives, all reporting directly to you. What is LigNet? LigNet is confidential. LigNet is sensitive. LigNet is security. What is LigNet? They're the ones taking the world's pulse. If you're not in the know, you're not on lignet.com. You've been briefed.
And welcome back. Investigators say it was an inside job, and now a former executive of Tiffany's is under arrest for stealing more than $1 million worth of jewelry. Records show the female executive stole 165 items, then took the pieces to a Manhattan reseller, collecting 75 separate checks. Tiffany's only found out about this after they had already laid off the executive. She had spent 22 years with the company, but if convicted, she faces 30 years in prison. And as the world watches the uprising in Egypt, one of America's closest allies in the Arab world, we talked with the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Pete Hoekstra, during a Newsmax exclusive about what role the U.S. should play in all of this.
The outcome is very, very uncertain, and America's role, I think, at this point in time, needs to be very, very muted.
And to see more of our exclusive interviews and content, and for the latest on Egypt, stay with Newsmax.com. I'm John Bachman. Have a great 4th of July weekend. Now here's the Steve Malzberg Show in New York.
Are you ready?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling 855-777-9660. That's 855-777-9660. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Hour number 2 of the Steve Malzberg Show. On this day before the 4th of July, I won't be here tomorrow. We'll have a best of, and then on Friday, Dave will be filling in. So enjoy your weekend. We'll be back here, God willing, ready to do it all again on Monday. Of course, we're keeping an eye on what's going on in Egypt. The first hour was basically dedicated to the coverage of the coup. You want to call it a military coup or whatever you want to call it, but President Morsi is no longer president of Egypt. The military made sure of that. So he's out as they map out a roadmap, as they said, to democracy. Joining us now is our friend Charles Hurt, columnist for the Washington Times. Hello, Charles.
Hey, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So I'm sorry, we always seem to talk on a day when absolutely nothing is happening in the world.
Yes, but I hope your bosom is filled with freedom now that we've had yet another spring, Middle East spring. I guess this time it's going to work, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it depends who Obama's supporting this time around. I got to tell you, they hate us. I mean, there were so many signs that I saw, some I can't repeat on radio or television, of Obama, what they think of Obama. Hey, Obama, our president is your B.I.-itch. And other things. I mean, they blame Obama, many of them, for putting Morsi or making it possible for Morsi to become their president.
Yeah, and Steve, I think that one of the things that we're seeing over there is a lot of this pent-up frustration. Not necessarily that the United States president was, took sides in something, or the United States president was wrong about something, but President Obama did something that few presidents before did. He went to the Middle East and he made all these extravagant promises about spreading peace around the world and changing things for them. And a lot of these people that we see rioting in the streets all across the Middle East were spoken to directly by him and heard the promises that he made, and were very much filled with the same sorts of things that I think a lot of American voters heard when he gave all of his wonderful, gauzy, empty speeches that only now we're realizing were totally empty. And it's that frustration, and they're reacting, and it's so clear that, as you just pointed out, they are reacting not necessarily to just their condition and their own little political environment in their country. They are absolutely reacting to the President of the United States, and that's what angers them, is that he has failed to fulfill the promises he made to them. And my goodness, what a strange and terrifying situation we find ourselves in.
No, you couldn't be more accurate with everything you said. Your analysis is spot on. And, of course, when it comes to our national interests here, separate from what the people feel there, Hosni Mubarak certainly were meeting our needs and Israel's needs and the security needs of the region. And then you put this wild card in there in the Muslim Brotherhood, who we were told by John Brennan, who today admitted to Congress he misled them because he forgot about the Patriot Act when answering a question under oath. That happens to me all the time. I sometimes forget my name when I tell people who I am. Anyway, under oath. We were told by him that the Muslim Brotherhood, they're good people in the Middle East and in Egypt. They're not a threat. They're not violent. They just want to do good. So, I could see why the people of Egypt would hold Obama and his administration, at least partially responsible for what they had to get rid of.
Yeah, and you remember, Steve, when he came out and he made his first major address to the Muslim world, and for those of us who are not his natural allies, political allies, I'm a lot more probably conservative politically than he is, but I did realize that there was like this moment of where you had a guy who was coming into the White House who could have spoken with extraordinary authority to the Muslim world and said, and sort of offered peace, but said there will be no peace as long as you all don't reform your hateful ways and murderous ways towards the Western world. That was the moral authority he had going into it. But what did he say instead of that? He went over there and told them that one of his jobs as president of the United States, he went to Egypt. In Egypt, he said one of his jobs as president of the United States is to dispel rumors and myths about Islam.
I know. It was as bizarre. It was as bizarre and frightening a speech as you could ever get from the newly elected leader of the United States of America, given where it was said and what was said. It was totally bizarre. But you know what? It's not so bizarre anymore because many of us, or I'll speak for myself, see the pattern, understand who Obama is and what he would like to do.
Yeah, and you're right. You're absolutely right. But any sort of normal thinking human being, no matter how liberal or how internationalist they are or whatever, I've never understood why when he uttered that line, uttered those words, that his own supporters weren't like, whoa, wait a minute, wait, what did you just say?
Right.
Because that's totally crazy. He's making something up. He's saying something that's completely not true. And for all those people who are on his side and want to give him the benefit of the doubt, how is it that they didn't put on the brakes and say, wait a minute, you need to stop this nonsense right now,
yep.
and sort of fix it from there. But obviously everyone who said that this was part of a pattern turned out to be exactly right, and y'all were wise to sort of stick with your guns on it, because I think so many people just sort of we felt like there's no way this could be true.
Absolutely. We're talking to Charles Hurt, Washington Times, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. All right, let's talk about, when I called you today, who knew we'd have a coup? But who knew? But I called you about
you didn't know it.
There you go. But I'm bummed. Wait, actually, I have that. Don't go away. Where's the rim shot? Here we go. See? I got a rim shot, baby. All right. It took me 33 years, but I got my own rim shot. Now, you wrote a great piece in the Washington Times today about Gettysburg and, of course, the 150th anniversary of Gettysburg. But the title tells it all: Another Day for Yankees to Wallow in Anti-South Hate. The perception, the history, the way it's taught, the preconceived notions. Talk about what you wrote about.
And then of course, don't forget Doris Kearns Goodwin, our apparently the person who writes history for all of us, and she delivers this unbelievable.
Well, wait a minute, Charlie. Let me stop you. If she's writing it for all of us, someone might have written some of it first. Another bump. There you go.
But actually, Steve, I think that this is an improvement, because this was so crazy, so outlandish. we know that she didn't plagiarize it because nobody else could come up with nonsense like this. She spends the entire time talking about, like the 1960s when she was fighting for women's rights and gay rights. She was talking about all this stuff at Gettysburg, and all these people are kind of turning around looking at one another like, really? I thought we were here to talk about what happened in the 1860s. These heroic men on both sides who shed extraordinary amounts of blood for what they believed in, and when I think of the puny politics that we see President Obama play, and we see that bizarre, twisted politicization of everything that we get from people like Doris Kearns Goodwin or any history professors that we encounter today, I'm reminded of Abraham Lincoln's address at Gettysburg, which is when it's like 3-4 graphs long. Of course, every kid used to have to memorize it.
Right.
But what is so stirring about that speech is it's short. It is so imbued with the humility of a great man and a great leader, where he says, not long, our words will not here long be remembered. Talking about himself. Are you kidding me? Some of the most memorable words in the English language, of course. But what he was saying was that there was no ability for him to say something to consecrate the land better than the fighting men who had already consecrated it with their blood. And he was so careful. And his vision at that time was to save the Union, was to preserve the Union. And he was so careful to talk about how the boys on the South had consecrated the land just as the boys on the North. He didn't. It was a unifying message. The country was cleaved in half, and he managed to come up with a totally unifying message where he honored the Southern dead as well as the Northern dead. Can you imagine that kind of humility and that kind of unity coming from a political figure today?
Oh, my gosh.
When the country isn't even cleaved the way it was back then.
Oh, my gosh. And you're so right, about Lincoln, and that was one of the beauties of it. And we can't conceive of what, you and I through history we can, through reenactments and whatnot. But to know that it wasn't so long ago in the context of history and how close we came to ceasing to be one nation, and the genius of Lincoln in doing what you just alluded to and what you wrote about in your wonderful column today. It's so true. Having said all that, and you talk about Doris Kearns Goodwin and whatever, history, the politically correct version of history, not only portrays history in a politically correct manner, but if you dare to stray, if you dare to even repeat what Lincoln said and make it as your own in the aftermath of it, then you're now a racist or a bigot or a Confederate, and something's wrong with you. So we are so out of whack.
Yeah, and the accusation of how you have to be a racist if you to talk about to try to honestly pick apart what the great emancipator, his plans were. His motive in the Civil War was not to end slavery. His motive was to preserve the Union, was to reunite the Union. That was his singular goal. And of course, halfway through it, he brilliantly grabbed onto the moral high ground, which is to make it about ending slavery, which, let's not forget, ended slavery only in the Confederacy, not in the border states.
Right.
But if you people, first of all, history in the United States is in such shambles. The teaching of history is in such desperate shambles that most kids don't learn any of that. And if you ever try to have that conversation, you're right. It becomes this politically charged nonsense where people, get accused of being racist and things like that. And it's until we fix that, until we fix the ignorance problem that I would argue is perpetuated by the left far more than it is today on the right. Until we fix that, we're going to be in a heap of trouble.
Right, and it's an ignorance problem, Charles, born out of the fact that they don't want you to talk about it. And if you talk about it, or if you raise an objection and raise a question, they talk about diversity in colleges and whatnot, but of course they don't want diversity of thought. They want diversity of skin color, and that to them satisfies diversity. But all the professors have to be the same ideological bent. So you're right, and it's a great column. And you ask at the end, so why does any of this matter? I mean, the South lost and slavery did end, which is a very good thing. Every second that slavery existed in America was an abomination. And then you write that there's another important truism about history: those who fail to understand it are doomed to repeat it. Great way to end the column. And you know, I just read a story. I wish I could recount it to you, Charles, about a guy. He was either at a game or an event, and he had a Confederate flag with him, or wore a Confederate flag shirt. And of course, he was either arrested or thrown out or whatever. I mean, that's how sick it is.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And you know, and actually, you know, I remember growing up in a small town in the South, and you know, granted, we learned a different version of the Civil War, and it was I think it was called the War of Northern Aggression. But you know, at least we were taught the facts about it.
Right.
And of course, all my buddies that I went to school with, black and white, you know, grew up, and we. You know, obtained our own perspective about things, and realized that it was, you know, that you know, we were definitely taught a certain perspective of it, but it was, at least it was, you know, we were exposed to a diversity of opinion.
Absolutely, and that is so gone now. It's so gone. You know, I tell my friend, I tell my son every day, be careful what you say in school. Don't repeat. Don't talk like you're talking to me in the house, even though it's not. There's nothing wrong with it. Don't repeat certain things outside, because it's a whole different world. Hey, Charles, have a great holiday, my friend. Thank you for your time.
You too. Happy 4th of July.
All right, take care. Charles Hurt, ladies and gentlemen, of the Washington Times. We will continue. Kendall Coffey coming up at the bottom of the hour, and hopefully I'll try to find out what happened in the Zimmerman case today after 2 o'clock, when this military possible coup took place in Egypt, because the networks are now dark on the Zimmerman trial, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Guys, you've heard about Ageless Male, the natural supplement that helps boost testosterone levels within normal, healthy ranges. But now, the best testosterone product is even better. New and improved Ageless Male can help you feel more like you used to in your active life and in your romantic life. Because our upgraded formula has been clinically shown to increase your drive, desire, and performance. That's right, guys. Ageless Male has been clinically shown to boost performance. Cancel your plans this weekend. You're staying in. If you're ready to recapture the drive from your youth, now is the time to try Ageless Male, because it's available risk-free. But you must call now. Just call 1-800-460-9790. Be the guy you used to be. Just call 1-800-460-9790. 1-800-460-9790. 1-800-460-9790.
Hi, this is Dick Morris. Obamacare is taking full effect this year with over 15,000 pages of regulations. You need to know how this law affects you. That's why you should get your copy of Obamacare's Survival Guide. It's easy to read and the best guide to the new law. Even if you're currently insured or a senior on Medicare or a business owner, a medical professional, or really any citizen, you need the Obamacare Survival Guide. In it, you'll find about hidden taxes, fees, and fines, including a 40% tax on some health plans. I warned you about Obamacare. It's rationing, Medicare cuts, and will trigger doctor shortages. Now the Obamacare Survival Guide gives you the simple steps to protect your family. So get the Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere. It's already a #1 Amazon bestseller. Or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 today by going to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
150 million people suffer from headaches. All you want is for the pounding in your head to stop. Migralex stops the pounding. Migralex was developed by a neurologist and founder of the New York Headache Center.
I'm neurologist Dr. Alex Malzberg. After studying and researching the human brain for 25 years, I've developed Migralex, which eliminates pounding headaches. It works for my patients, and I'm so convinced it will work for you. I don't just guarantee it, I put my name on it.
Dr. Malzberg's Migralex gets rid of headaches fast without harsh caffeine, sodium, or preservatives.
Migralex works unbelievably fast.
fast, and it's gentle on my stomach.
Find out how to get your free bottle of Migralex. Call 800-532-2967. Plus, if you're one of the first 100 callers, you'll also receive the Migralex Quick Tips to Headache Relief absolutely free. That's 800-532-2967. Or go to migralexrelief.com. MIGRALEX relief.com. Or call 800-532-2967.
What is Lignet? Lignet is knowledge. Lignet is power. Lignet is global. Top-level officials, U.S. intelligence officers, national security advisors, foreign operatives, all reporting directly to you. What is Lignet? Lignet is confidential. Lignet is sensitive. Lignet is security. What is Lignet? They're the ones taking the world's pulse. If you're not in the know, you're not on Lignet.com. You've been briefed.
Obamacare. More than $1 trillion in new costs. Hidden taxes, fees, big Medicare cuts, doctor shortages. How can we survive?
To know Obamacare is to survive Obamacare. The Obamacare Survival Guide tells you everything you need to know to protect yourself, your family, your business. The Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere. Special internet-only offer right now at Obamacare911.com.
Breaking news and breaking hearts. Aww. This is the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, welcome back. Let's try a phone call or two here at 855-777-9660. Kendall Coffey coming up at the bottom of the hour here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Let's go to Bill. Hello, Bill. Where are you calling from, sir?
Hello. Well, today I am calling from Florida.
I hear the horn, but right back at you. Beep, beep. What's going on? What can I do for you?
Well, I've got a comment that's just been bugging me. I know you heard about the thing in China where a group of workers took their American boss captive and held him until they got their demands, which was better working conditions.
Yeah, that was about a week or so ago. Yes, I had heard that. Yeah.
They let him go. He's sitting in a hotel resting. Well, that took some courage to do that. And then the people in Egypt, they have ousted Morsi. It only took, 4 days? 3 or 4 days to get him out. I mean, I realized they were pissed off about it, they were mad about it at first. But, and now, so they demanded his ouster by Wednesday. Well, here it is Friday or Wednesday, and he's out.
All right, so your points are only because we're running out of time. What's your point?
My point is, when are we as the American people going to get the intestinal fortitude, or maybe I should say cojones, to do the same thing that these people are doing and take back the country?
The way we do it here is at the ballot box, and believe me, Bill, believe me, you wouldn't want it any other way. We have a great opportunity. We have a great opportunity in November of 2014 to take back the Senate and to win the House. We just need candidates who understand they are not only battling their opponent but battling the media. And then we could do it. And then in a couple more years, we could take back the White House and take back our country. You don't want the military ousting anybody in this country ever. Believe me, that's not what we want. But I share your frustration when it comes to our current administration. Got to do it at the ballot box on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Obama wants your money, and he's determined to get it. He wants your money to buy off unions, his Wall Street cronies, and to expand the Obama welfare nation. Well, Swiss America is determined to stop him from stealing your money. They want to send you an award-winning film, I Want Your Money, on DVD that exposes his plan. It'll help keep the government's hands off your money using gold, silver, and other hard asset strategies to protect your hard-earned money. Call today and request the DVD, I Want Your Money, normally $19.95, yours absolutely free. Let Swiss America show you how to use gold, silver, and other hard assets to protect your hard-earned money. Call now. 800-978-3907. 800-978-3907. Call Swiss America right now. Learn all about investing in gold. 800-978-3907. That's 800-978-3907. Call right now.
Drug, alcohol, and gambling addiction can be devastating for you and your loved ones. Don't let the disease of addiction ruin everything you've worked so hard for. The Treatment Helpline has helped thousands of people just like you take control of their addictions and live healthier, cleaner, and happier lives. You are not alone. Now there's hope. The Treatment Helpline has helped people just like you overcome their addiction. If you or a loved one is suffering from a drug, alcohol, or gambling addiction, let us help you today. Call 1-800-813-9821. Our seasoned addiction treatment professionals can show you how to use your private health insurance to help cover the costs of this life-changing program. Call now and get a free confidential consultation. 1-800-813-9821. That's 1-800-813-9821. Help is only a phone call away. Call 1-800-813-9821. That's 1-800-813-9821.
Tired of calls, levies, and liens from the IRS or hiring others who don't get the job done? Call Wall & Associates and you'll never talk to the IRS again. The IRS has a program to eliminate tax debt, and Wall & Associates professionals are trained to maximize its benefits for you. You always speak with a live person with real support and real knowledge. We've helped thousands of taxpayers like you settle their tax debt with the IRS for a fraction of what they owe. We solve tax problems. Call Wall & Associates now. 800-574-6029. We have the professionals who know how to solve tax problems. If you owe money to the IRS, your tax problems are not going away by themselves, and the passage of time will only make matters worse. Act now, before it's too late. Call Wall & Associates right now to speak to a professional tax relief agent. Call 800-574-6029. That's 800-574-6029. Again, 800-574-6029.
Health insurance is on everybody's mind right now. You either don't have it, or you have it and you think it's too expensive. And you probably feel like you don't have any options. We can help. We are InSphere Insurance Solutions. We offer health insurance plans from major carriers nationwide and likely have a plan that can save you money. Whether you're self-employed, on a COBRA plan that's about to expire, or you simply don't have health insurance where you work and you need it, InSphere Insurance Solutions can help you. Our agents will help you find coverage you can afford. InSphere Insurance Solutions is an authorized agency in all 50 states, including the District of Columbia. Plans may not be available in all states. 800-980-9325. 800-980-9325. 800-980-9325. 800-980-9325.
Where can you find the Steve Malzberg Show? Everywhere. From your smartphone to satellite radio to Newsmax Live TV to Roku, we have you covered. Here is Steve Malzberg. You have the right to remain silent, but we'd prefer if you didn't.
Spinning the law, spinning the law.
This is Malzberg's
Spinning the law.
Spinning the Law.
Spinning the law, spinning the law.
With attorney Kendall Coffey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, Spinning the Law, and we are joined. I am very happy to say he made accommodations for us, as he does every time he appears, but today is Wednesday, and we squeezed in another edition with Kendall Coffey. Hey, Kendall, how are you, sir?
Doing great, Steve, doing great.
Well, all right, well, here we go with... in the midst of everything else that's going on, one of the bad things about this Egypt thing taking place today is that they cut off all the coverage, at least most of it, most of the networks of the trial, and I didn't get to see court TV, so maybe you know more than I do. But I know what happened today was, and I'm a little confused. Well, not confused, but let's focus on today. And by the way, the prosecution, Kendall, said that they will probably rest no later than Friday morning, which means they could rest this afternoon or Friday morning. Do you believe that they'll be calling Trayvon's mother as their last witness before they rest?
I absolutely do. Not a witness that normally you would want to have to rely on, but not a lot of things have gone well for the prosecution in this case. And so, one of the things they're hoping is, look, there's a young man who's dead. He was unarmed. His mother can undoubtedly speak, in a powerful way that may reach some of the mothers on the jury. Is that enough to convict? Is the jury going to accept her testimony that it was Trayvon's voice screaming for help? Hard to say, because Zimmerman's got family members who are going to say exactly the opposite. But in the condition the prosecution's case is in, they're going to have to rely on the mother of an alleged victim, even though, she doesn't have any knowledge of what actually happened that night except for her expected testimony about the voice on the 911 tape.
Let me ask you a question, because lots of times I play lawyer in my own head. Could Mark O'Mara, in a very pleasant way, very pleasant manner, as sympathetic and as empathetic as possible, say, you heard Ms. Gentile say that your son described George Zimmerman as, in a derogatory fashion. I believe the term was, crazy-ass cracker. Do you believe that your son said that? Now, if she says no, it impugns the integrity of the testimony of the witness. If she says yes, then, and again, you got to be careful how the jury, you don't want to be seen badgering the woman, but it does bring up, I think it's a win-win. Either she says no, he would never say that, and in which case, so she's implying the witness lied, and if she says yes, she's got to explain away crazy-ass cracker.
Well, in some situations I would agree with you, but look, it's a question that's going to embarrass a woman who's lost her teenage son. 5 mothers on the jury. And perhaps most importantly, Steve, I think the defense thinks they're ahead. I think they've, if we're analogizing this to a football game, I think they've got at least a touchdown or more ahead in their minds. Why would they take a chance on perhaps offending the jury, prompting tears on the stand, or maybe even an answer that no one can expect?
Right,
so
right.
If they were, well behind and they thought they had to be aggressive or do something with the mother of somebody whose life is lost, maybe. But I think O'Mara's gonna be cautious, as you say, empathetic and sensitive, and do a limited cross on the mother. Just basically bring out the obvious, that she'd never heard his voice in a situation anything like this before, and that the most obvious of all is she's the mother, and she wants to see something done about the loss of her son's life.
All right, see, that's why you're Kendall Coffey and I'm not. All right, so now...
But you're a great radio host.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And, folks, I just want to let you know what kind of guy Kendall is. Kendall, one of the most well-respected attorneys in all of the world, whenever I book him and I reach out to him and say, can you do it, he always writes me back, thank you for including me. And I'm like, I want to write back, you don't get it. No. Thank you for making time for us. But that's the kind of man Kendall Coffey is. Just want people to know that. You certainly didn't ask me to say that. Anyway, so let me ask you about what happened today. 2 things. One, the judge decided that in a sense, the past of George Zimmerman could be admitted. He took he applied to be on the police force in a jurisdiction in Virginia, so they let the guy who received his application from the force testify to that fact. She also let in the fact that he took a criminology course a few years ago and let his criminology professor come in to discuss what he learned there. The implication of that being, I assume, he's a rogue wannabe cop, and he was fully aware of the stand your ground laws, et cetera, et cetera. That aside for a second, does that now also open the door for the defense to certainly request and maybe, and you tell me if it could be denied after she let this in, Trayvon Martin's past with regard to fighting and school suspensions and anything else?
I think there's a little risk of that. On the other hand, I think the biggest risk to the prosecution in terms of opening the door is really with Trayvon Martin's mother, because it's going to be hard for her not to want to talk about her son and what a wonderful young man he was. But if she goes very far into his life, it presents any kind of a bio of Trayvon Martin, then I really think the danger is real that the door opens, because the prosecution has basically said, we put into issue the past of Trayvon Martin. And if that happens, you can bet the defense is ready. If that door is open even a little bit, they're ready to come bursting in with a lot of things that the defense has wanted to talk about.
Right, but not to the mother. They won't bring it up to the mother, right? Because that would do the same effect. They bring that up in their defense case.
In their own case.
Yeah.
They'd say that the direct examination of the mother, some of the things she said,
Right.
allow them in their case, because now the door has been opened. And that's something to watch very closely when she takes a stand.
And you say very little threat. You mean so that door was not opened by the judge's decision with regard to the police application and the course on criminology?
I don't think so. That was really just the knowledge, the skill set, the expertise, maybe impeachment of Zimmerman. It wasn't really saying that George Zimmerman was a violent guy, for example, such as bringing in his prior arrest or bringing in his whatever the domestic violence issue is. Those are the things that would have assuredly opened the door to Trayvon Martin's past. I'm not sure if that door has quite been opened yet.
We're talking to Kendall Coffey here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Explain to me about DNA. I only got to see the DNA expert to say how there was no DNA from Trayvon Martin found on the gun at all, and there was let me get this straight in my head. There was no DNA from, I think, Zimmerman's. There was no Trayvon Martin DNA on Zimmerman. Blood DNA or DNA on Zimmerman, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I didn't see the cross-examination. I could only assume it went on. Maybe did you see it?
Didn't catch.
Okay. What is it? And we've heard this. At least I heard it brought up by probably analysts such as you're doing at NBC, talking about the case, saying that rain could wash away DNA. Now, is that something you're familiar with, and is that probably one of the things that O'Mara will or might bring up in cross-examination?
Absolutely, and he's already set the stage for that, because there have been a number of references throughout the first week of testimony about the weather conditions and about rain and about blood that might have been on the sidewalk washing away. So I think he's set the stage pretty well to establish that it really doesn't mean much anything if there's no fingerprints of Trayvon Martin on the gun, if there's no DNA on the gun, because the prosecution's trying to make the point that Zimmerman asserted that Martin grabbed the gun. There's no evidence of that, but I think by the time we're through with this trial, the jury's not going to make up a lot on that, because there are just so many other explanations, including weather, including just sometimes the fact that fingerprints don't readily attach to the surface. There's just so many conditions that affect that I don't think the jury's going to put a lot of weight on the fact that there's no actual proof that Martin grabbed the gun.
And the DNA expert would, in all likelihood, will acknowledge that, right? As far as you know, because if that's the fact, then he has to acknowledge that.
When they're crossed effectively, as I think we can expect here, they will acknowledge all the limitations and all the reasons why there might not be any sample that are a matter of conditions.
What you say that you believe the defense believes that they are on the on the whatever yard line you said that they're way ahead. What do you believe at this point? In your assessment, if you were a jurist, you haven't seen all the testimony, but from what you've seen, where do you think they are?
I've seen a lot of the testimony, and I've obviously been following the case closely. I think the defense is ahead. I don't exclude the possibility I've seen prosecutors put it all together on closing argument, and then all of a sudden it hangs together. But if this trial ended tomorrow and nothing else was heard by the jury, I certainly don't. I think they would find a reasonable doubt as to second-degree murder. Manslaughter, which is a lesser included offense, which the jury could find and the judge will likely instruct them on, may be a possibility. But right now, I think the prosecution is having some real problems. And one of the results of the current, I think, status of the case is I do not expect the defense to call George Zimmerman. Normally, you have to if it's a self-defense case. But I think through the prosecution witnesses, the defense has brought out enough to establish a claim of self-defense, so that I don't think they're going to put George Zimmerman on the stand.
Yeah, and I think that we could also count from what we've seen in the cross-examination, the presentation of the defense, especially from Mark O'Mara, that he will tie it all together as well in his closing statements. Would you agree?
Yeah, and he's got a lot of things he can raise. One thing you've seen throughout the trial, and I think the defense has done a good job, I think the prosecutors have done a good job with what they've got, is the difference it makes in a state like Florida where you have depositions in a state criminal case. We're one of maybe 4 or 5 states in the country that actually allows defense lawyers to depose prosecution witnesses. A huge procedural advantage. It makes a difference in a lot of cases in the state of Florida, and you're seeing that O'Mara and West have made the most of that procedural advantages because time and time again, when they cross-examine the prosecution witnesses, they know what the prosecution witnesses are going to say. They've taken their deposition, and they bring out the points that are positive to them. And a lot of times, it seems, Steve, like, gosh, by the time the witness is done, turn into a defense witness.
Absolutely.
And the depositions in Florida are a reason that becomes more doable here than in most jurisdictions.
Time and time again, witness after witness. I mean, he's done a masterful job, I guess aided and abetted, if you will, by what you just alluded to. 2 more brief things. One, in the interview, the Sean Hannity interview that they aired in court and then gave no follow-up to. It's just like they aired it and it just hung there and that was it. Zimmerman, from what I remember, says to Hannity he was not aware of stand your ground laws in Florida, yet he apparently learned it in his course. That kind of inconsistency, I mean, is that something that, they're going to, if they drive it home, is that something the jury's going to say, this is huge? I mean, does that really make a difference, considering the fact that the police and witness after witness said he's been consistent, and any inconsistencies that he gave were just minor and consistent with any witness or anyone who was in such a situation in the past?
Well, a couple points. I think it's always a mistake to put a criminal defendant on up for an interview. I mean, unless of course it were your show. But apart from that,
yeah.
it's just bad because they say things that don't sound great. And
Right.
I thought some of Zimmerman's comments, especially the ones where he basically said, "We got to come back to the fact a young man unarmed is dead." And when Zimmerman is asked about any regrets about getting out of the vehicle that night, he basically says no. So there's a lack of remorse.
Yeah, like it was God's will or something to
yeah,
that effect. Yeah,
those were not wise.
Yeah.
Those were not sensitive remarks, and they're not going to play well. I mean, they don't amount to any kind of confession of guilt, but they're not sympathetic. What I don't think the prosecution will get anything out of is that discrepancy between taking stand your ground course a few years ago and the comment he made. And the reason is, I mean, jurors have a lot of common sense. Everybody thinks back, okay, when I took courses, was it college, was it high school, what the heck did I remember 2 years afterwards? And the answer, honestly, is not much.
Yeah.
So I think when the jurors search their own experience about that, they're not going to be too upset that perhaps Zimmerman didn't remember a course he took a few years earlier.
And one more. Is there any evidence that you could think of that the prosecution scored with that the defense hasn't countered by at least bringing in reasonable doubt, if not, in fact, swaying it the other way?
The prosecution has been able to make almost no points without a meaningful defense response. The best points for the prosecution came early when, frankly, they presented the photographs of a young man who was killed.
Right.
So they've got that. They'll close with the impact of the mother's testimony. But this has been a case for the prosecution that's been tough. And among the things that just jumped out at me was having Chris Serino presented as the lead investigator so damage the prosecution's case. Say ultimately that he thought that Zimmerman, who was claiming self-defense, was being truthful.
Yeah, but then now even though he had to take that, or the jury was told to disregard that the next day, that's in, right?
That is in. It will not be forgotten. And frankly, jurors will remember the statement. They may not even remember that the judge told them to disregard it. So I think the fact that a police witness, who should have been kind of like the lead advocate for the prosecution's case, so significantly undermined it, I just have a lot of trouble seeing a conviction here. But juries are hard to figure, and I'm telling you, we've all watched cases where the prosecution gets down to closing, they put it together, and all of a sudden there's a real connection that the jury sees, and surprising verdicts can happen. So
Well,
I'm not going to rule that out.
I hear you.
But right now, as we await the holiday, I think the defense is feeling pretty good about things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Kendall, thank you so much. Have a great 4th of July weekend, and hopefully we could, maybe the defense will rest by next week. Maybe by this time, next Thursday, they'll be in jury deliberations. Who knows?
Okay, Steve. You have a great holiday.
You too. Thank you. Kendall Coffey, ladies and gentlemen, the great Kendall Coffey. And as soft-spoken and nice as he sounds, he's nicer. Okay, just want to throw that in. All right, we're going to come back in the next hour. We're going to speak to Sally Pipes about Obamacare. La-di-da, Barack Obama has decided that we don't have employers with 50 employees or more don't have to sign their people up and implement Obamacare or pay a fine for another year. And what will take place in that interim period? Oh, the midterm elections will be over and done with. What a coinky-dink. We'll also talk to Noel Sheppard, of course, as we do Malzberg's Media Madness right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Are payday loans ruining your life? If you have 2 or more payday loan cash advances, listen closely. You may be eligible for a program that payday loan companies don't want you to know about.
This program will get payday loan companies out of your bank account and put an end to the payday loan nightmare. Call for free information and find out if Payday Loan Support Center is right for you. Payday loan companies usually trap you into paying rates as high as 700%. We understand payday lenders' tactics. Don't let them take advantage of you anymore. All you need is 2 or more payday loans to qualify. We can help even if you're behind in collections or have bad credit.
Internet payday loans qualify for this program as well. So call 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. The call is free and the consultation is free. Don't miss out. Call for your free information on payday loan relief. 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. Again, 800-250-5084.
If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction to alcohol or drugs, then you must listen to this message because there is hope. No matter what addiction you or your loved one is coping with, you are just one phone call away from real help. Recovery Hotline makes the healing process simple and affordable by matching people to fully certified and experienced inpatient facilities that are right for their personal situations. Call 800-668-1286 now. Don't wait another day. Money does not have to be an issue. Most insurance is accepted. Just call 800-668-1286 today. Recovery Hotline's mission is to help you or someone you love begin the healing process and get back a healthy and sober life. And we can even help with family interventions and travel arrangements. One phone call is all it takes to get back the life you or your loved one deserves. The call is free. The help is real. Call 800-668-1286. That's 800-668-1286. 800-668-1286. Again, 800-668-1286.
Hey guys, do you know your testosterone level? You should. Each year, declining testosterone robs more of your energy, drive, motivation, and even your ability to perform in bed. Take control of your testosterone today. Write this number down because Progene, the leader in dual-action testosterone supplements, is now giving you a free supply if you call today at 800-592-4834. If you'd like to feel closer to 20 than 40 and get back that energy, drive, and confidence, call now to try Progene risk-free. Don't believe us? We'll even prove it works. Ask about our at-home testosterone test kits and see for yourself what Progene can do for you. Be one of the next 100 callers. We'll triple your order and send you a full 1-month supply of Progene for free. A $70 value for only the cost of shipping and handling. Call 800-592-4834 for details. Know your level and kick your drive back into gear with Progene. Call 800-592-4834. That's 800-592-4834. Again, 800-592-4834.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, and you may be forced to watch helplessly as you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, all while your home's value is eradicated. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer believes we will soon stare down a secret crisis that will rival the Great Depression. It was Wiedemer's 2005 book, America's Bubble Economy, that warned of coming meltdowns in our housing and stock markets. Washington did not heed his call, and folks on Main Street lost $50 trillion from the recession. His New York Times best-selling book, Aftershock, predicted our federal debt and dollar would be the next bubbles to burst. And now Robert Wiedemer has released a startling video with shocking evidence the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Join us at Aftershock2013.com. Aftershock2013.com.
Hi, this is Mike Reagan. Folks ask me, what would Ronald Reagan do if he were with us today? I believe the first thing he'd do is stop Obamacare. Already it's in effect, with higher taxes, hidden fees, skyrocketing insurance rates, big Medicare cuts, and some insurance plans are hit with a 40% tax. Protect yourself by getting the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's already a #1 New York Times bestseller. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law, giving you the strategies, tips, and loopholes you need to know. If you're insured on Medicare, a business owner, a medical professional, just about anyone, you need this book. Get the #1 bestseller, The Obamacare Survival Guide, at bookstores everywhere. Or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price.
Scroll down now to claim your copy of Obamacare Survival Guide for the special internet offer of only $4.95.
Microphones hot. Satellite link established. Studio lights illuminated. Cameras rolling. Audio and video encoders firing ones and zeros. Internet stream is streaming. The most technology advanced radio show is on the air. Here's the captain of this enterprise, Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We'll shift our focus to Obamacare and what Obama did yesterday in imposing a one-year delay on a very important part of that whole program, and why he did it. And we'll also do Malzberg's Media Madness and much, much more. Lots of great sound bites that we haven't had a chance to get to because it's been such a newsy day. It's always a newsy day. By the way, you know, I can't tell you how many times I've looked up and said, how many times have you looked up and said, thank God? Okay, so I'm driving into work, and I see, you know, I'm cruising along, and I see the cars in front of me, you know, there's a merge to the left, and the cars in front of me are like stopping, slowing, so I slow, but then they stopped. And I'm like, uh-oh, am I going to be able to stop? And I hit the brake. I didn't want to hit it too suddenly, but I hit it pretty hard, and I tried to veer a little to the right so the car back of me, you know, maybe would have some room in case it needed to stop. Long story short, thank God I stopped. But the car in front of me, the car in front of it, and the car in front of it, they didn't go nowhere. I mean, nobody was hurt, didn't look like, but they all hit each other. And I was just this close, and I'm holding my fingers a little bit apart, this close to being a participant or a victim in that scenario. So, you know, you drive in the rest of the way, you look up into the sky, you say thank God, and you go on. And it's, you know, it wasn't life-threatening, but life is so tenuous, and you never know from one minute to the next what's going to happen. So just enjoy and thank God for every moment you have, and try to make the most of it. Yeah. And how many times have you heard that and said that to yourself in your life? And then 5 minutes later, you forget it. On the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
My patients still don't know what Obamacare means for them. And how could they? There are already 13,000 pages of regulations, and the bureaucrats are just getting started. Obamacare will change your health care, and you need to understand how. There are hidden taxes and fines, big cuts in Medicare, even new regulations on what services doctors can offer you. Some businesses could get hit with a 40% additional tax on your health care plan. Please, get the Obamacare Survival Guide today. It's the best book explaining the new law. It's easy to read, everything you need to know to protect yourself, your family, your business. The Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere.
Special internet-only offer right now at Obamacare911.com.
If your prostate is giving you problems and your doc says it's just part of getting older, be wary. Renowned physician and author Dr. David Brownstein thinks this is baloney. He's discovered a link between aging and prostate health and believes prostate concerns do not have to be an inevitable part of aging. That's why he created Prostate Revive.
Hi, I'm Dr. David Brownstein. I personally formulated Prostate Revive to include the most essential natural ingredients available to help promote a healthy prostate gland and optimal urinary function.
The producers of Dr. Brownstein's Prostate Revive are so thrilled with the positive feedback from satisfied customers that for a limited time, they are willing to send you your first month's supply free. Plus, call now and you'll also receive Dr. Brownstein's special report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Prostate. For details on getting your free bottle, call 1-800-596-REVIVE. That's 1-800-596-REVIVE. Take control with Prostate Revive. Call now while supplies last to claim your risk-free bottle at 1-800-596-REVIVE.
Are you The Steve Malzberg Show?
Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Now update. I'm John Bachman. We are tracking the tense and developing situation in Egypt. It continues to evolve at this hour. Right now, an advisor to President Mohamed Morsi says there is a military coup underway. This after a deadline for Morsi to give up some power came and went. Also, early Wednesday, Army and pro-reform leaders held closed-door talks to try and find a new way forward for the country. These massive protests that we've seen in the streets of Cairo and elsewhere in Egypt have grown increasingly deadly. The Army has also reportedly been setting up barriers around the presidential palace, perhaps to place Morsi under some kind of house arrest. But during a televised address Tuesday, Morsi said he and other members of the Muslim Brotherhood would rather die than yield the legitimacy that comes with being chosen as that nation's first democratically elected president. And at this point, it remains unclear what will actually happen to Morsi. Here's what a Morsi spokesman, Muslim Brotherhood spokesman, said earlier.
When we say that we will stand between the tanks and the president, that means we will sacrifice ourselves as a human shield to protect the legitimacy of the will of the Egyptian people.
And remember to check back frequently to Newsmax.com for the latest developments in Egypt. And the White House makes a surprise announcement about Obamacare. Companies with more than 50 employees will now have until 2015 instead of 2014 before they are required to provide health insurance to their employees. The White House also says it will work to reduce the application form from 21 pages down to 3. Meanwhile, individuals will still be required to have health insurance beginning in January of 2014, or they will be subject to tax penalties. Congressional leaders say this proves the health care law is unworkable, and it will re-energize their efforts to repeal the bill. And the saga of NSA leaker Edward Snowden continues, and it took a strange twist yesterday that involved the president of Bolivia, Evo Morales. At one point, Morales' plane, which was leaving Moscow for Bolivia, was diverted to Austria. Apparently, someone thought Snowden was on board. He was not, but the diversion really upset the Bolivian government because there are international conventions against rerouting presidential planes. However, Bolivia, a socialist nation, is one of the few remaining countries that has not completely denied Snowden's quest for political asylum. And more than 3 million people will travel by air this 4th of July weekend, and there are two big stories now involving airport security you need to know about. The government says a record number of flyers are showing up with guns in their carry-on bags, almost 900 so far this year. The TSA is also now experimenting with dogs to screen passengers in addition to screening their luggage. And next up on our Newsmax Now update, cops say it was an inside job, more than $1 million worth of jewelry stolen from Tiffany's. See how investigators tracked the heist back to a company executive. And a Newsmax exclusive with the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Pete Hoekstra, on what to do about Egypt.
You've heard the allegations on the news, and during the big game, pro football players have been using deer antler velvet to get a competitive edge. Banned at the London Games for its performance-enhancing qualities. Forbidden in major sports leagues for being an unfair advantage to athletes. Deer antler velvet is now in stock and available to try for free for a limited time only. Athletes have been using it for years for increased strength, increased endurance, muscle mass stress reduction, and yes, greatly enhanced libido. Everyone's talking about this miracle substance so powerful, it's being banned by professionals professional sports organizations. But for a limited time, it's being made available to the general public. Best of all, you can try it for free by calling 800-678-5153. That's right, get Superior Velvet for free. If you're looking to boost your performance on the field and between the sheets, get the most powerful, proven product used by athletes for years now for free. Claim your free bottle today by calling 800-678-5153. That's 800-678-5153. Again, 800-678-5153.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at AftershockVideo.com. AftershockVideo.com.
Have you ever wondered how you could make a difference in someone's life? What if you could help hundreds or even thousands of children? Students in the U.S. rank 32nd in world math skills. It's time for our children to catch up. Become an owner of one of the world's fastest growing franchises, Mathnasium. Mathnasium is the leading math-only learning center in the U.S. Imagine helping hundreds, even thousands of students in your community improve in school and raise their self-esteem. Call us at 800-676-5216. 800-676-5216.
And welcome back. Investigators say it was an inside job, and now a former executive of Tiffany's is under arrest for stealing more than $1 million worth of jewelry. Records show the female executive stole 165 items, then took the pieces to a Manhattan reseller, collecting 75 separate checks. Tiffany's only found out about this after they had already laid off the executive. She had spent 22 years with the company, but if convicted, she faces 30 years in prison. And as the world watches the uprising in Egypt, one of America's closest allies in the Arab world, we talk with the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Pete Hoekstra, during a Newsmax exclusive about what role the U.S. should play in all of this.
The outcome is very, very uncertain, and America's role, I think, at this point in time, needs to be very, very muted.
And to see more of our exclusive interviews and content, and for the latest on Egypt, stay with Newsmax.com. I'm John Bachman. Have a great 4th of July weekend. Now here's the Steve Malzberg Show in New York.
Are you ready?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling 855-777-9660. That's 855-777-9660. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome. Steve Malzberg, hour number 3, final hour of today's show. On this 3rd of July, 2013, of course, we're keeping an eye on what has happened in Egypt, where the military has ousted President Morsi after 1 year in office. One of the more prominent members of the Supreme Constitutional Court of Egypt will be interim president while they pave the way with their roadmap to democracy, as they call it, where they will hold elections. They're going to set a date for new elections and move forward. The military is in control of key points throughout the country, including in Cairo. You still have millions of people on the streets, most of them celebrating. And, of course, the supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood and the now former President Morsi not happy at all. But we are going to go on to other things as we did in the previous hour, and let us focus now on health care. As I was driving home yesterday after the show, I heard bulletin coming on, a special report, and it turned out that the Obama administration had granted a 1-year delay in implementing a major provision of Obamacare, and that is the provision, I believe, where employers have to provide health care coverage for their employees or pay a fine, a penalty, if they have over 50 employees. Joining us now to talk about this is Sally Pipes, president of the Pacific Research Institute. Welcome back, Sally.
Oh, thank you, Steve, for having me back.
Well,
it was an amazing thing. I was absolutely stunned.
I was stunned as well. I was so stunned. So talk about, first of all, before we talk about why this might have happened, talk about what this means, what this does, what this doesn't do, what it means.
Well, you know, one of the major provisions of the Affordable Care Act, which celebrated its 3rd anniversary on March 23rd, is the employer mandate, which, as you know, was to come into effect on January 1st, 2014. Any employer who did not offer health insurance or didn't meet certain conditions would pay a fine to the government of $2,000 or $3,000 per employee, so that the individuals could purchase insurance in the exchanges. And I guess there's been a lot of business leaders and the chamber people going and saying to the administration, we just cannot, get this operational by January 1st. So yesterday afternoon, first it came out as a blog from the Treasury Department, and then Nancy Ann DeParle confirmed that they had decided to postpone the implementation of the employer mandate until January 1st, 2015. So there's a lot of talk going on. We don't really know, but I think, for those of us who are for repeal and replace, I think this gives the Republican Party a lot of hope to rebuild the impetus for, getting out and making an issue about if they can't get the employer mandate organized. The individual mandate is another thing that I would like to see postponed and eventually repealed. And then, of course, there's the whole issue of the exchanges. 27 states have said that they are not going to operate their own exchanges, and they've left it to the federal government. Another 7 are going to be partnerships. And I just don't see, as Max Baca said at a hearing in front of
the train wreck is coming, right?
The train wreck is coming, and I think, we're going to see a train wreck also coming on the exchanges. So this could really be the beginning of the end for the president's, signature initiative.
All right. Well, now here comes the question, Sally. In your view, did the president do this to allay the concerns of businesses, small/large businesses, in other words, 50 employees or just about 50, and those larger, some of whom were saying that they're going to fire employees to get down under the 50 threshold so they wouldn't have to be under this mandate, et cetera, to give them another year to figure out or to work with them and to see if they can ease the pain, so to speak, or... And therefore, it represents a huge problem in the implementation of Obamacare, and we could hope, as you alluded to, that there will be other provisions to follow. Or is this purely political in nature because it is such a train wreck that Obama has no intentions of sidetracking anything? He just wanted to, he sees political advantage in postponing this until after the midterm elections. So he feels, and a lot of analysts have agreed since yesterday, that this takes away a major theme of the Republicans. I disagree. I still think that they can point to this and say, see, we got to stop it, elect us. But many people think Obama did it for political reasons only. What do you think?
Well, I think, Steve, you're absolutely right. Obama is very political. And when you look back to the signing of the Affordable Care Act and how things were staged, the main cost drivers, the employer mandate, the individual mandate, the Medicaid expansion, the subsidies, the exchanges. Not one of those things was going to come into effect until 2014 because he knew he had to fight the 2012 election. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if he isn't doing this as a political issue for the midterm elections. I think that it could very well backfire on him, as I say, and I think it really gives the Republican Party a lot of new oomph in order to, talk repeal and replace. So I think it is probably political because he wants the Democrats to keep the Senate and maybe gain some ground in the House. So
well, that would be the end of the United States as we know it for certain, but because there'll be no stopping him legislatively if that were the case. But I think you're right. But here's what gets, and I think I agree with you also that it gives the Republicans, it will backfire politically speaking if his goal is to take away an issue from the Republicans in for the midterm elections. It might prevent some horror stories from being talked about because they wouldn't have happened yet. But it's a great issue. Saying, see, Obama was afraid to let it happen before the elections. Don't let it happen. Let's stop it, blah, blah, blah. I think it gives them a great rallying point. But let me ask you this. Don't the Republicans in the House already have the ability to say, for instance, no to the funding of the IRS role in this? Don't they hold the purse strings? I know they've passed legislation in the House that will never see the light of day in this Senate that says repeal Obamacare, but don't they, in fact, can't they control parts or provisions, like including the ones I've alluded to, and stop them by not funding them?
Well, absolutely. The House has voted 37 times, Steve, to repeal the whole legislation.
Yeah, but that's not going to go anywhere. But if they vote not to approve funding, then that funding doesn't get approved.
Right, exactly. And I wonder, I mean, not being in Washington, not being a fly on the wall, I just wonder why the Republicans haven't done more of this on, defunding of the Medicaid expansion, defunding of that, the subsidies come in at 400% of the federal poverty level. And so between 133 and 400%, even in Massachusetts, so only 300%. So these are some of the things they could do. I just wonder, are they a bit frightened to take this on? Because they shouldn't. These are things that can happen, and there can also, be further votes to repeal something like the medical device tax, the 2.3% tax that came into effect January 1st of this year. And there's a lot of Democratic support for that too, and it is passed. So, I mean, a number of things can be done, but I think I've talked a lot about defunding, these things, but why are the Republicans, it seems to me, afraid to bring this up? Because they do have the power to do that.
I don't know. I mean, here you have a situation where the polls, if that's how John Boehner and the leadership governs, and I hope it's not, but I fear it is in the case of the leadership, the polls show overwhelming support for everything you and I have talked about on issues like abortion and right to life and marriage and whatnot, where the polls aren't as clear cut, or maybe they're on the losing end of the polls. Even then, I think they're running away from a fight they could win by pointing out the radical nature of the other side, but they run from that. I can't imagine, though, like you say, why they're running from this, why they don't have the courage, since they keep passing repeal of the bill, which they know isn't going to happen with the current makeup of the Senate and the White House. Then do something that you can do. That's what I don't understand.
Start the ball rolling. If they have to, as I said earlier, if they decide to delay the individual mandate, the administration, if they decide to postpone the exchanges because of the 27 they're going to be operating, I just don't see how they can get that. This really gives the Republican Party a rallying cry to get around and start, still today, 55% of Americans would like to see this legislation repealed. 42% think it's already being repealed.
Right.
But I think that we need to get the battle back on the front pages of people's minds, because during the campaign last fall, Romney didn't seem to want to touch health care because of his own Romney care.
Right.
He want to back away from it. And so the air went out of that bubble, but I think we have something to be able to start building up again. In 2014, November, is not really that far off when it comes to major issues like health care reform.
It is not that far off, and again, it's just I think. See, it surprises me. I could see a national candidate screwing it up the way Romney and McCain did, as they think they screwed up issue after issue. But the Republicans win in their districts by being very, very vociferous against the health care bill, and if they would take action, I think it would only solidify that. So I'm confused, and hopefully between now and the next few weeks or months, when everybody gets back, I could put the question to some people in the Republican Party in the House and say, why aren't you doing anything? I just don't get it. And if you find out, Sally, before I found out, you tell me.
Yes, I certainly will. Yeah, it's an interesting, but it certainly caught me by surprise yesterday afternoon.
Yes, me too. It really did. But all in all, it's a good thing. But because this problem can't be solved, I mean, there's no way around it. Employers know what they have to do. If they can afford it, they'll afford it. And pass the cost on to us. If they can't, they'll lay people off or not hire full time or whatever the solution. But it's not good. There's not going to be a magical solution given the current regulation requirements, whether you wait a year or 2 years or 10 years. It's just not going to work that way.
Right, and I have a new book coming out next week called The Cure for Obamacare from Encounter Books. It's a broadside, and I think the timing is perfect because it has a whole replacement agenda. And the Democrats keep telling the Republicans, "Well, you don't have a plan. You don't have a plan."
Right.
Well, we do have a plan, and they need to step up to the plate and back a plan.
I couldn't agree more, Sally. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great 4th. Keep up the fight, and we'll speak again very soon, I'm sure.
Thanks so much, Steve.
My
Bye.
pleasure. All right, Sally Pipes, ladies and gentlemen, president of the Pacific Research Institute. Very interesting. Very interesting. And she's right. I love the fact that they keep passing repeal of the health care law. But, and I don't call it symbolic. I think they're doing it for a purpose. But they can defund. And this is what I don't understand. They keep saying, we're not going to fund the IRS. We're not going to pay for more IRS positions, especially in light of the scandal. Well, then tell me how you're going to defund it. Tell me, show me, vote. If in this case, you haven't appropriated the money yet. It's not like you have to undo something. So don't do it. Don't appropriate the money. All right. When we come back, There are people who fear that if George Zimmerman is acquitted, there will be violence. And the same people fear that if George Zimmerman is convicted, there will be violence. Might be a different kind of violence, but violence. And they're preparing. We'll let you hear from some of them when we come back right here. And Noel Sheppard ahead with Malzberg's Media Madness on The Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Hello, my name is Fred Fleitz, and I'm the managing editor of LigNet. You've probably seen our name preceding some of the stories you read on Newsmax or heard LigNet referenced on Fox News, C-SPAN, or CNN. Perhaps you've asked yourself, what is LigNet? LigNet is an acronym for the Langley Intelligence Group Network, a private Washington, D.C. based service that provides global intelligence, in-depth analysis, and detailed forecasting. LigNet's staff and advisors include former CIA officers, national security experts, presidential advisors, and top-level government officials from around the world. I myself held several national security posts for the U.S. government during my 25-year career with the Central Intelligence Agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the U.S. Department of State, and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Our lead advisor is General Michael Hayden, the former director of the CIA. He is joined by former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations John Bolton and former chairman of the National Intelligence Council and Special Assistant to President Ronald Reagan Fritz Ehrmann, former U.S. Ambassador to Venezuela Otto Reich, and former clandestine service officer Frederick Russman. Former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee Peter Hoekstra also joined our advisory board staff. Every day, our goal is to use our expertise, our resources, and our worldwide staff to take the pulse of the ever-changing political and economic landscape and the threats we face on a daily basis. Whether you are following global events for your portfolio or business, or just interested in the world around you, LigNet provides what you need to know to keep up with global events. There are many. Every day, LigNet members receive the Morning Brief, a daily email that provides summaries and links to our daily analysis to keep you up to date on LigNet's assessments. LigNet members receive unrestricted access to LigNet's secure database of global analysis. All of our special reports, previous analyses, and exclusive video interviews with intelligence insiders are available to members 24 hours a day. But you also get top-notch analysis that resembles the President's Daily Brief, the classified intelligence assessment delivered to the President of the United States every morning. LigNet also sends breaking news emails to our membership list. If there is a development of global proportions or a terror alert, our subscribers are always the first to know. I hope you now have a better understanding of what LigNet is, but more importantly, recognize how truly invaluable LigNet can be. As the old saying goes, knowledge is power.
Join LigNet for $1. Go to lignet.com.
Here's today's silver shortage update from Lear Capital.
Reports keep coming, the shortage is growing. Twice already this year, the U.S. Mint has run out. Last time this happened, the silver price jumped 40%. It's time to take advantage with this special offer from Lear Capital.
For a limited time, buy 20 new silver polar bear coins and get one free. The only 1.5 ounce coin on the market. It's minted with the finest silver, carries a government guarantee, and is eligible for IRAs. The silver polar bear is available exclusively from Lear Capital. But don't wait. Silver supplies are shrinking and availability is not guaranteed. This offer is limited to a minimum purchase of $5,000. Call right now. 800-634-0482. 800-634-0482. Call Lear Capital now. 800-634-0482.
Sure, Steve might be a bit of a hypochondriac, but he never gets sick of breaking news. This is the Steve Malzberg Show. Call Steve at 1-855-777-9660. That's 1-855-777-9660. Here's Steve.
3's got 15th Street. Team 2's got 14th Street.
The clock is ticking for the Sanford PD and its new chief.
Well, let's mount up, folks. Let's do it.
The George Zimmerman case exposed a deep, bitter divide between the city's police and African Americans. On the job now only since April, Chief Cecil Smith.
We're going to walk, knock on doors.
Hopes going door to door, talking to people in this city of a little over 50,000 will help get him out in front of a possible disaster. What is your worst fear here?
Well, our worst fear is that we have people from outside of the community coming in and stirring up exactly what you talked about, violence in the community.
All right, so there you go. That's the new police chief of Sanford, Florida, Cecil Smith. He and other city officials are worried about the outcome of the Zimmerman trial and what might follow. I mean, we lived through the Rodney King riots, and I'm not saying that's going to happen. But there is fear. And let's go to cut number 20.
It's a fear that goes all the way to the top of City Hall. In a candid conversation, Sanford Mayor Jeff Triplett talks about how a Zimmerman acquittal could bring an element of violence that the city has managed to avoid so far.
That one person that came to town to throw a rock through a window or start a fight or do something that would provoke someone else, the provocation of violence.
That's all it would take. That tiny little act could have made something big happen.
We were a tinderbox.
And they're worried that they could be again. In spite of the peaceful outcome of the massive demonstrations we saw here a year ago, Sanford has been working for months preparing for the end of the Zimmerman trial, even enlisting the help of local pastors who are sitting in the courtroom acting as observers.
All right. By the way, that's David Mattingly from CNN with that report. And here he continues and he talks to a pastor, an African-American pastor in Sanford. And here's cut 21.
After that verdict, when you come back to your congregation, what do you hope you'll be able to tell them?
That justice has been served.
Will you be able to do that if George Zimmerman is acquitted?
As a pastor and a leader in this community, I would have to. I feel confident with the skills and the God-given ability that I have to be able to articulate. Now, will they accept what I say? That would be totally up to them.
That unknown has the city manager planning for something big. You're worried about a Rodney King type of riot here in Sanford?
I'm saying that that's a scenario that's certainly a possibility.
How do you prepare for that?
Through law enforcement. It's a good question, and it's not one that I'm going to go into detail on.
And neither is the city's police chief. What does this mean? Do you have SWAT teams that you're ready to go?
I'm not going to get into that with you, what the actual secure
personnel
plans are.
Coming in from outside?
We have plans that are in place to work with our other departments, to work with the sheriff's department, and as far as the particulars of the plans, we're not releasing that.
All right, and one more from Mr. Mattingly as he finished his report. Cut 22.
Months of preparation, intense community relations, and a secret law enforcement plan, all to keep the peace in a city with a lot on the line.
It's amazing watching that, David. So when Sanford officials say they're concerned about people sparking violence, who exactly are they worried about? Who are they going to be watching?
Well, there are no individuals we're talking about here, but they're very sensitive about people outside of Sanford who might come into the city, into this emotionally charged environment, trying to stir up some kind of trouble. They've got multiple scenarios out there that they're preparing for, not just for an acquittal of George Zimmerman, but if he is found guilty as well. They're also prepared if the celebrating gets out of hand.
All right, so there you go. So this is something that I'm sure we'll hear more and more about as the end of the trial nears and the jury gets the case. Okay, coming back with Malzberg's Media Madness on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
This is a referral service. Calls will be routed to an independent referral insurance agency. Do you know the #1 cause of bankruptcy? No, it's not losing your job or running up credit card debt. It's not even divorce. It's medical costs. If you and your family don't have health insurance, just one serious illness or accident could be financially devastating. But now there's good news, really good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide health insurance for all Americans, even uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now anyone can get health insurance even if you have a pre-existing medical condition. I repeat, now anyone can get health insurance coverage. Call now for a free no-obligation quote on affordable health plans available to you. Again, this is a free hotline for anyone, even if you have pre-existing conditions. Protect you and your family from sudden unexpected medical costs. Call the free health insurance hotline right now at 1-800-910-3470. That's 1-800-910-3470. Call 1-800-910-3470.
If you need to lose weight and would like to get paid for it, that's right, I said get paid to lose weight. Just listen to the following announcement. The makers of GCE Green Coffee Bean Weight Loss are looking for real testimonials from real people and will pay you per pound to meet or exceed your weight loss goal. Until now, the secrets of green coffee's fat-burning power has been limited, but thanks to Dr. Oz, the secret is out. And now, this authentic green coffee bean fat burner is available in easy-to-take tablets. There are no expensive meals to buy or strenuous workouts. Simply take one tablet before each meal and record your progress. Only the first 200 callers are guaranteed to be accepted into the program. So if you're serious about losing extra weight and want to earn extra cash for fitting into your skinny jeans again, call 800-383-9230 now. Call 800-383-9230. 800-383-9230. Space is limited, so hurry and secure your spot today. 800-383-9230. Some conditions apply. 800-383-9230. 800-383-9230.
Are payday loans ruining your life? If you have 2 or more payday loan cash advances, listen closely. You may be eligible for a program that payday loan companies don't want you to know about.
This program will get payday loan companies out of your bank account and put an end to the payday loan nightmare. Call for free information and find out if Payday Loan Support Center is right for you. Payday loan companies usually trap you into paying rates as high as 700%. We understand payday lenders' tactics. Don't let them take advantage of you anymore. All you need is 2 or more payday loans to qualify. We can help even if you're behind in collections or have bad credit.
Internet payday loans qualify for this program as well. So call 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. The call is free and the consultation is free. Don't miss out. Call for your free information on payday loan relief. 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. Again, 800-250-5084.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names.
Really? Yeah.
They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-908-1254, 800-908-1254.
This is not your typical Screamfest talk show.
No.
This is the next generation of talk radio. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, as I welcome you back to the Steve Malzberg Show, let me say hello to our friend, Noel Sheppard. And it must be time for Malzberg's Media Madness. I know it's not the bottom of the second hour. It's the bottom. I know it's not the bottom of the second hour. It's the, I'm all confused. Yeah, bottom of the third hour. And it's also not Friday. It's Wednesday. But we're all messed up for the holiday. Noel, I thank you for accommodating us. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Associate Editor Noel Sheppard of newsbusters.org. And Let me start. Could I start with two of my favorite people in the whole wide world? I mean, you're one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, and since I started with you, let's go. But you're really a favorite. Let me take my tongue out of my cheek here. Let's start with Alec Baldwin, and I think we all got some good news today, which you wrote about at Newsbusters, and that is Alec Baldwin says he's going to fly to Russia to try to interview Edward Snowden.
Yeah, he wants to be the new Dennis Rodman, and how can you blame him?
Well, Dennis Rodman says he wants the Nobel Peace Prize.
No, it's really, well, hey, he's just entitled to the Nobel Peace Prize, as was Barack Hussein Obama.
Just for being Dennis Rodman, like Barack Obama got it just for being Barack Obama.
Yeah. I mean, you could make the case that when Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize, he had done as little for peace as Dennis Rodman. So,
that's
crazy
a good
stuff.
point.
Yeah.
But look,
he wants to interview Snowden. It is interesting.
Well,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say he's trying to get WNYC here in New York, I think, a National Public Radio affiliate, to send him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Snowden at this point, where's he going to end up?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe in Alec Baldwin's, abode somewhere.
I just realized where he's going to end up. He's going to be on Al Jazeera. They're going to give him his own show.
No, you just went to my second favorite person. Don't go there yet. Don't go there yet. We know who did wind up on Al Jazeera. Maybe you're right, though. Okay. So Alec Baldwin. And I didn't plan on discussing this, but let's just briefly touch on this.
Why not?
You broke the story, I think it was last weekend or whatever, when at the Gandolfini funeral, and the horrific tweet that he put out against the male online writer, where he said he would hunt him down. He called him a queen. And then he claims Queen had nothing to do with homosexuality or in any way derogatory as far as that goes, but also tweeted, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I'd put my foot up your blank, but you'd like it too much, which is also
apparently
derogatory towards gays.
Yeah, there's no sexual content in that at all. Look, this whole affair with Alec Baldwin, against the backdrop of what happened to Paula Deen, tells us how much the media are willing to give a pass or defend those that they like versus those that they don't. I mean, certainly what Paula Deen did by comparison to what Alec Baldwin did was nothing. What did Paula Deen do? A Southern woman admitted that 20 years ago or 30 years ago, when she was living in the South, she used to use the N-word. Oh, how horrible. But yet she loses her entire career as a result. But in real time, just days ago, Alec Baldwin makes tremendously homophobic attack on a British reporter, and the media are largely, okay. I mean, we did a study at the MRC where we found that in the 3 days following the Paula Deen revelations, there was something like 4 or 5 times more coverage of what she did by the ABC, CBS, and NBC. And I may be getting the numbers wrong, but it was a huge disparity. By comparison, Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin's in the in crowd. He's allowed to do and say whatever he wants. I mean, I'm not sure we should be shocked by it anymore.
No, and you tweeted this out. I retweeted it from Newsbusters, and then you said, I said, is he finally going to suffer the consequences of his actions? And you wrote something to the effect, or tweeted out something to the effect of, no, he'll be rewarded for it.
Be rewarded for it. You know, Capital One's going to give him probably extend his contract. You know.
It's not only this. It's not only this, Noel. I mean, this obvious, in my view, gay slur, but, you know, allegedly calling a black photographer Rodney, allegedly calling another one a coon, you know, grabbing a photographer, getting thrown off the plane. I mean, this cat has 9 lives, and I don't know that anything. I don't know what he could do that they wouldn't joke about, and Glad forgave him for this, but NBC doesn't have to forgive him for this, and Capital One doesn't have to forgive him for this, and all the other the history that he has, and the tape with his daughter. I mean, how is he so charmed?
I don't know. I really don't. I mean, at this point in time, he's more covered in Teflon than Bill Clinton ever was.
Yeah, no, that's
I mean,
absolutely.
you could make the case he's more covered in Teflon than Obama. I'm not sure Obama could have gotten away with this. So I don't know. I don't get it.
No, I don't get it either. All right, now let's listen to cut number 29. Some of you folks may remember this doozy. Cut 29. 24. Sorry, 24, as previously stated.
I think if I've learned anything over the past year, it's that facts matter, and we shouldn't be afraid to have tough and honest conversations and maybe even argue a little bit when there's a lot at stake. And yes, Governor Sununu, I am talking to you. Up next for me, I'm going to continue to focus on the 25 girls that we serve. We send girls to college with my foundation. Continue to focus, too, on good journalism, examining the critical issues that our country faces, from jobs to poverty, and focusing on the people who have stories to tell in this country, and often those stories don't get told.
Well, Soledad O'Brien, as you wrote about at Newsbusters, Mr. Noel Sheppard, is joining Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera. I mean, this apparently is where failed CNN commentators go to die. It's Al Jazeera, and and frankly, I think it's fitting. I mean, her career on CNN was largely based around espousing anti-American views, and now she's going to be on an anti-American network. I think it's a good symmetry for her. I think she'll do just fine. She's going to be able to say all of the awful things about her country that she wants now and be paid handsomely and probably not have many detractors or critics.
No, you're absolutely right, and I thought you'd appreciate the that was from her farewell from her last broadcast.
Farewell.
Where, facts matter.
Facts matter.
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
They never mattered to her.
Right, and you wrote that up, and you documented so much of that over the many years of Soledad O'Brien, who had two incarnations in the morning. She was O'Brien and O'Brien, and then she was the last show that she did. And the thing about CNN, just to go off the track a second, I think they're reincarnating them, or they're reinventing themselves in their own image. In other words, I don't see them changing. No. I don't see anything changing. They're just changing the names of the shows, adding a person here, Crossfire, yes, but they are still the CNN, in my view, that has failed.
Well, and you can see what they did even with Crossfire. I mean, you could make the case maybe Van Jones is a good personality there because he's not a total ideologue. He actually will say bad things about Democrats and bad things about the current president.
That's because he's a communist and everybody's bad to him.
No, and that's right. I mean, he's to the left of Obama. That's at all possible, and he'll speak that up. But Stephanie Cutter is a total shill. This is a total ideologue who's basically going to be there speaking White House talking points. I mean, why not bring in David Axelrod and Robert Gibbs too? I mean, it's pathetic. I'm very happy for S.E. Cupp. It's going to be interesting to see how Newt does in that type of an environment. And he's never done it. He does a lot of TV, but he does it from exclusively a pundit position where he's being asked questions. If they're going to use the old Crossfire format, if you recall that format, and I know you do, is that they're actually asking questions of their guests rather than exclusively pontificating. So it's going to be interesting to see how Newt does in that role. It should be fascinating. But Stephanie Cutter, there was a lot of chatter about her. I mean, this is just having someone from the administration on talking administration talking points, and why CNN felt the need. There's a lot of people out there that could have spoken very, very well from the left without having not just such a tremendous tie, almost an umbilicus tie to the White House, but there really is no difference in her patter than in Obama or Carney's patter. So why have her on?
I can't answer that, and I couldn't agree with you more, other than to say what I've already said. All right, let's move on, and let's go to Chris Matthews. And this was, I don't know, one of the admissions of the century. This is cut number 13. Let's give a listen to Chris Matthews.
Democrats don't really believe in border enforcement, do they?
Look, do
they?
I don't know about other Democrats.
Do Democrats care about border enforcement?
The leadership understands.
Do they believe in border enforcement? A lot less than Republicans.
Less than Republicans, but enough.
Why don't they believe in it? Why do they believe in illegal immigration, Democrats?
Because right now it's not even that big of a problem.
Why do they believe in it?
Well, I'm not going to defend.
Yes, you are. You're basically admitting. Do you think Republicans are?
Chris,
do you think Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party is concerned about illegal immigration?
Mildly.
Okay. You are covering. Let's take this.
All right, that's Matthews talking to Jonathan Alter, and saying, why do Democrats favor illegal immigration? I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
It was an amazing statement. I think back in 2010, Matthews had made a comment on the air saying that he thought Democrats didn't want to stop illegal immigration. But this is taking it a big step further, saying they actually believe in illegal immigration. And as that segment continued, he shared numbers from the Cook Political Report concerning Republicans and Hispanics, and how, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but something like 75% of Republican districts right now have less than 10% minorities in them. Okay, and that in reality, as a result, and they have very, very little Hispanic in them. So as a result, and he was making the case for why it would be insane for a member of the House to be voting for immigration reform, because they're going to get killed at the polls. They're going to get killed, in 2014 if they do it. And then he comes out and he says, and why would they do it anyway, when they all believe, probably rightly, that the Democrats are not going to secure the border? So it was an amazing, I don't remember whether this was Tuesday, I think this was yesterday. It was really an amazing statement. It was interesting also to watch how he's grilling Jonathan Alter, and Jonathan Alter doesn't want to admit that, Democrats don't believe in any of this. Nobody wants to admit this. So this was really opening up a very, very interesting closet full of skeletons. I mean, it was really quite extraordinary.
Yes. All right. Let's move on to this cut from Steve Roberts, husband of Cokie, talking about what's missing from TV newsrooms. And they were talking about, it was CNN's reliable sources. Again, all these stories Noel did and wrote up and provided the sound to on newsbusters.org. Here is cut 27.
Yes, and here's another thing that this coverage reveals. What's missing often in TV newsrooms, there are plenty of gays. There are very few people of faith and very few evangelical Christians who, in their own beliefs, would be against gay marriage. And this is always...
Just to clarify, you're not saying all people of faith are against same-sex marriage.
No, not at all. But I'm saying that if you did a survey of any newsroom in Washington, the number of people of deep faith who oppose gay marriage would be minuscule, and therefore you wouldn't necessarily go into a newsroom and find the same kind of people that you would in terms of gays.
Another stunning statement.
Shocking. This was, Steve is, I've always felt, is further to the left than Cokie.
I agree.
This was amazing, and later on he actually kind of stumbled and said, when it comes to same-sex marriage, that people of faith have the more normal view. And I'm like, whoa, yeah, this is, now, you do know that Cokie is also, I think that they're Catholic, because Cokie has spoken about her faith on ABC's This Week. So I think that they both are people of faith. And this was another cat out of the bag moment. I mean, this was very, very surprising for him to just come out and the way he said it, he said, there are a lot of gays in newsrooms. There aren't many people of faith. Wow. I'm sure when you saw that, I don't know where you were when you first saw that. Shocking stuff. And he's right.
I was in my basement. I rely on you to get me all this stuff most of the time.
Well, what was interesting is Howard didn't disagree with him. And it was Terrence Smith from PBS was on. Terrence didn't disagree.
Right.
And Jane Hall from American University was on. She didn't disagree. Terrence and Jane are both serious libs, and they didn't disagree. So, what was interesting is I was wondering, this was Howard's last show on CNN, because now he's moving over to Fox.
Right.
And there were a lot of let's say, conservative moments that occurred on this show. And I was wondering whether this was somewhat intentional, that he was, conceivably letting people know, people at Fox know, hey, this is the kind of program I'm now going to be comfortable doing. Because I don't think we would have seen this a month ago on his show.
Right, I agree. And maybe Roberts wants a gig too. Now, one more really unbelievable remark, and this one is from Andrew Sullivan, and talking about the gay marriage issue and how far gays should push it or whatever, and what their reaction should be to the Supreme Court decisions. Here's cut 25.
I don't want anybody's religious liberty. I want that to be defined as maximally as possible. We do not threaten, and should never threaten, the conscientious beliefs of those who disagree with us. We should welcome their freedom, because it's our freedom too. And so I'm very concerned, actually, that we may become intolerant of people who believe homosexuality is still sinful. And we have to live by our own.
You want to be tolerant of their intolerance?
Yes, because I think in the end, that's the only way to solve it. I mean, I'm a Christian. I really believe in the end on this matter, you up the ante and start calling them bigots and trying to coerce them, you're as bad as they were to us. And we must never do that.
Boy, you gave us 3 wows this week, Noel, and that's the third of the 3 wows.
That's the third of the 3. I'm not sure which is the biggest wow here. This was a serious wow for me, and it was, we on the right, we forget that there was a point in time where Andrew Sullivan was actually a very reasonable, I'm not sure he was ever really conservative, but he was a reasonable Republican. And I think that for whatever reason, George W. Bush drove him crazy. And he moved to the left as a result of George W. Bush. And he does make a comment, by the way, during that interview, that same interview with Fareed Zakaria. He comments about how George W. Bush conceivably was a big part of the reason why gay people started to think about same-sex marriage.
Right.
Because originally, when he first posited the idea, he said that he was excoriated from people on the left and people on the right and the whole gay community, because the gay community at the time was very, very antithetic to gay marriage. To marriage in general. They were totally opposed to marriage. So this was a rare moment. I haven't seen, it's been a long time since I've seen Andrew Sullivan say something that I thought was, wow, it's very compelling, very interesting. I'm very pleased that he said it. But at the same point, I think that he's kidding himself. Because I think that much of the homosexual community and much of the media that adore the homosexual community has already castigated those that legitimately disagree with same-sex marriage for religious reasons.
Well, Noel, and as did, and I'll have to end it on this note, as did the majority opinion from Anthony Kennedy on the Supreme Court regarding DOMA, as pointed out by Justice Scalia. Noel, have a great holiday. I thank you for accommodating us. We'll speak to you next week, sir.
Sounds good, sir.
Bye-bye. Noel Sheppard, Associate Editor, Newsbusters.org. Wow. We ran real late, but it was worth every minute of it on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
A tragic fire, a break-in, a fall. Look, accidents and emergencies really do happen. The difference between life and death could be as simple as the push of a button. That's where Medical Guardian comes in. Are you afraid that something tragic may happen with no one around to help? What if you or your elderly loved one had a fall and lay for hours or even days before any help arrived? What if it was just too late? You don't have to live in fear that something terrible could happen. It's time you discovered Medical Guardian. Life-saving help at the push of a button. Get the peace of mind you need for yourself and your loved ones. Call 800-550-3470 right now. Be one of the first 100 callers and get your first month of Medical Guardian free. 800-550-3470. Call now and get your first month for free. The help you need is at your fingertips. Ensure your safety today with Medical Guardian. 800-550-3470. That's 800-550-3470.
Are you at least 62 years old like me?
Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Attention hip implant patients. Are you in constant pain? Have you received a letter from your doctor about your implant? Have you had or need a revision surgery? Do you have high levels of metal, chromium, or cobalt in your blood? Over 90,000 hip implant devices have been recalled due to defects and failures resulting in revision or replacement surgery. If you have a recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-1530 to see if your implant is affected by the recalls. If you or a loved one has a defective or recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-1530. That's 800-460-1530. Protect your legal rights today. Call 800-460-1530. This is an advertisement, not valid in all states. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. iLawsuit.com is an advertising group that represents lawyers advertising their services and is a free matching service for consumers. It is not a law firm or lawyer referral service.
Do you owe the IRS? Do you have unfiled tax returns? Have you received a wage garnishment or bank levy? Maybe a lien has been filed against you. OMG Tax can help you with all your IRS tax problems. Don't wait another second. Take action now. Call my team at OMG Tax. Honest and professional, we don't make false promises. If you owe back taxes, or if the IRS is garnishing your paycheck, you need help now. OMG Tax can help you get your life back to normal. If you're serious about handling your tax matter, call OMG Tax now and get the peace of mind you deserve. Don't let the IRS take your next paycheck. Stop waiting and call our team at OMG Tax. OMG Tax has a straightforward, no-nonsense approach and has helped many Americans resolve their IRS nightmare. Call OMG Tax now.
Call 1-800-255-6485. That's 1-800-255-6485. 800-255-6485.
3 a.m. and you're up again for the third time. It's not just affecting your sleep, it's interrupting your daily life. Frequent trips to the bathroom due to an aging prostate is a common concern, but you can now do something about it with Prostate Revive. Doctor-formulated Prostate Revive is an all-natural dietary supplement packed with 15 powerful ingredients, focused on improving prostate health by targeting the two main sources of prostate concerns, rogue testosterone and inflammation. And now, in this limited-time radio offer, you can try Prostate Revive absolutely free. That's a free bottle, a 30-day supply of Prostate Revive, risk-free. Plus, if you call right now, you'll also receive our free report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Prostate. Call now for details on getting your free bottle, plus our doctor's report. Call 1-800-659-REVIVE. That's 1-800-659-REVIVE. Don't be a victim of an aging prostate. Start getting the sleep you need and get your life back with Prostate Revive. Claim your risk-free bottle now at 1-800-659-REVIVE.
Microphones hot. Satellite link established. Studio lights illuminated. Cameras rolling. Audio and video encoders firing ones and zeros. Internet stream is streaming. The most technology advanced radio show is on the air. Here's the captain of this enterprise, Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with all sincerity, thank you for being out there. Whether you're watching at Newsmax.com or listening on XM, America's Talk Channel 244, or on the Talk of the Town in Atlanta, News Talk 1160. I want to wish everybody a very happy, healthy 4th of July holiday. We'll have a best of the Steve Malzberg Show tomorrow. We have Dave Nelson on Friday. I'll be back Monday, God willing. As they say, stay safe. understand what our founders intended for this country and understand that maybe it isn't happening much anymore. But that could be fixed at the